Good evening. I'm going to go ahead and put everybody on mute right now so we can jump right into it. Can you hear me okay before I do that? Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put everybody on mute. We're going to jump right into it. Go ahead and get started. So go ahead and share my screen. Let's bring that over here. And just to do a quick test, if you can hear me okay, say hear okay in the chat box. If you can hear me okay, just put I can hear okay in the chat box. And then I get everything all set up. And we'll be good to go. Great. Great. Wonderful. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate that. That helps me out a lot. Okay. So we are on day 12. And today's really kind of the big day. This is all about unlocking the matrix. And that's, of course, what we call the MLS here in the greater Washington, D.C. area. Other places will call it the multiple listing service and have other names. They call it Bright MLS in the greater Washington region in New Jersey, et cetera. But we've called it for years, called it the matrix. And this is all about how we actually go about unlocking it and making it work for us, or as I like to say, hacking it. But of all the lessons that we have gone through, this is by far the most important lesson. So real quick, everybody should have gotten your workbook for week 2. Again, apologize for being late by a couple of days. You'll find lots of goodies in there. I also sent out another email emphasizing the contract that we're going to work on tonight and the one-page journal addendum that we're going to use and work on today. Okay. Real quick recap on homework. If you have not done so, please go back and listen to The Water Boy. I'm going to walk you through a process today, and I'm going to go step by step and go very slowly. Some of you guys might even get a little frustrated with me going, Sherman, speed it up. But I want to make sure everybody fully understands what we're doing here. This is the key to unlocking the matrix. And I think you will find that if you go back and listen to the Water Boy case study, those 4 files I gave you 2 days ago, listen to it again, what I'm saying today will make a lot more sense. So stick with me for today and then go back and listen to the Water Boy again, just one more time, and see if you don't hear some new things or hear some things differently or have a whole bunch of lights go ping, 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 because now stuff is really starting to make sense, okay? Also, if you have not done so, please go and grab that buyer-broker agreement, read it, and if you would like for me to assign you a real investor diamond coach, as we talked about yesterday, the difference between mentors and coaches, I work in tandem with a coach. So I give you sort of the overall strategy, what you should be doing, what you should be thinking about doing. That is if you want to make money. You don't have to listen to me. And then I will assign a coach who will work with you to help you actually get it done. And that's how we work here at Real Investors. If you want to use somebody else, that's fine. But if you want to use me and you want to use the coach I want to assign to you, and I won't do that without first having a conversation with you, I need to have that buyer broker agreement in my hand signed by you. So go ahead and fill it out, get it over to us. You can email it to broker@realinvestors.com. I'll put that in the chat box right now. broker@realinvestors.com, or you can fax it to the office at fax number is fax it to the office at 301-218-4337. Okay. But please take care of those 2 things. If you know that you're ready to get going and you want to start working on getting deals done and popping that first deal in the next 21 days, okay? Next up, here's where we are. We are in the quick cash generator section of our class. Last week was all about the foundational stuff, Real Estate 101. This week is all about how do we actually turn this machine on. So we got deals popping, because as we remember, the currency of real estate is what? Put in the chat box. The currency of real estate is what? We talked about this in class last week. That's right, deals. The currency of real estate is deals. And the way we turn on the deal machine, the way we get the quick cash generator going, is exactly what I'm sharing with you today. That's why I say today's lesson is by far the singular most important lesson you will have in the entire 21-day course. And that's why I want to take it slow. That's why I don't want any interruptions. So if you got any questions, please do not unmute yourself today. Please make sure that you type into the chat box. I will go slow enough to answer every question in the chat box. But this lesson right here, this is it. This is what you have been searching for your whole real estate life and couldn't figure out why you couldn't get your first deal done. This is what triggers that. This is what makes that happen, okay? This is what turns on the quick cash generator. That's what we're dealing with today, okay? And then, of course, we're going to have a couple more days. It's day 12, so I have a couple more days where we'll finish some stuff out, and then we'll get into our third week. Hard to believe we're already into the third week. And I'll finish up a couple things. I've gone a little slower this week than I wanted to, so I'll finish up a couple things, and then we'll sort of kick it in high gear when we start talking about putting this thing on autopilot. Trust me, the key to putting this on autopilot, the key to being able to do 10% of the work and keep 90% of the money comes down to what I'm teaching you today. This is it. This is the whole ball game right here, all right? So congratulations being smart enough to hang in there long enough, and also congratulations for going through this live as opposed to watching the recording, because I think you're going to get it better if by being here live, okay? And I do want you to ask questions. I just want you to ask questions to the chat box today, okay? Gonna get a thumbs up if you guys are okay with that? All right, cool. All right, so here's where we are. Our first strategic hire. I started talking about this yesterday. By the time I finish today, you'll fully understand how critically important this person is to your success, how critically important this person is to helping you make money, get that first deal done, put this system on autopilot, so then you can go on to do other things. But the key is to make sure that we understand that this is a partnership. You're not hiring somebody to do everything for you, not this hire. The other hires we'll talk about, yeah, you're just turning stuff over to people, but this hire, it's a partnership. And that's why we talked about, that division of work and having that checklist. And I'll go over that in a second. But this is, again, making it possible for this person on your team to do their job is what makes the quick cash generator work. It's what makes the machine go, okay? And that's what we're talking about today. And then, of course, we got 4 more topics. Trust me, we will get those covered and done with the remaining time we got left. So don't feel like, gee, Sherman, we've only gotten into here halfway through and you're gonna rush through. No, I'm not rushing through, but this thing is so important. That's why I'm spending 2 days on it. So again, just a quick recap. For over 50 years, the standard in the real estate industry, the single family house real estate industry, the 80% of the market where single family houses are bought and sold, the standard has been that the seller has their agent. So we got a seller here, we got a seller's agent. And again, remember we talked about the agents work on behalf of the broker. Remember that one gun, one head? So in other words, the broker is the one who technically has the relationship with the seller, but then the broker assigns an agent. Or more commonly today, an agent hangs their license with a broker, and then they go out and get their own clients, which is why they're all mad all the time. They go get their own clients, but the clients belong to the broker, all right? Because the real estate commission really only wants to deal with one person. If there's a real estate shop got 300 agents, they don't want to deal with 300 agents. They want to deal with the broker, the principal broker. So the principal broker has oversight, and as a part of that, the principal broker also has the relationship with the client. So if an agent leaves a brokerage firm, they don't get to take the clients with them, not unless it's their mama, and even that's got a lot of paperwork with it. So the standard has been that the seller decides to sell. They go to a real estate brokerage firm through an agent or through an ad, whatever. They agree and sign a contract with that brokerage firm to let them list and sell the house, and they agree to pay a commission. And they also agree that the commission will be split. So the seller's broker typically gets half, although more recently it's less than half. And then the buyer gets to hire their own broker or their own agent. And again, agents work for the broker. Agents don't work for the clients. Agents work for the broker. And then the broker assigns them to a client, or a client, as in a buyer, can say, hey, I want to work with this agent. And the broker says, yeah, that's fine. Okay. So the buyer has their agent, their broker, but the seller is paying the commission for both. So over 50 years, the standard has been that the seller has their agent, the buyer has their agent, and the seller pays both agents. That's the standard, okay? However, even though your broker, your agent is being paid by the seller, they work for you. They have a specific kind of duty, a fiduciary responsibility. That's a very specific word with a very specific meaning. They have an obligation to protect you. And I know some people that's a little hard to understand. You're getting paid by the other side, but you have to protect my secrets. Yes, that's how it works. And as I said before a couple of nights ago, ladies and gentlemen, that is the matrix. This combination of seller and their agent, buyer and their agent, seller paying the commission for both, and facilitating these two parties, the buyer's broker and the seller's broker, facilitating the transaction and getting the transaction to go through. That is the matrix. That is why the world of residential real estate exists, well, residential real estate brokerage, exists. And 80%, 80, it's huge. In fact, I should probably type that in just to sort of reinforce it, right? 80%, 80% of all real estate transactions in these here United States and US territories are done through this system. This, my friends, is the matrix. And our job is not to be a part of the matrix. Our job is to hack it. Our job is to go in and take the rules that already exist and make it work for us in an expedited fashion. So we're going to do some things very differently than the way you might be used to if you've worked with real estate agents in the past, or if you are a real estate agent. We're going to do some things very differently because we're here to hack the matrix, not be a part of the matrix, okay? And then last sort of recap thing, remember what I said before. When you, the buyer, go to the seller's agent, you find them on Zillow, a friend recommends them, you go to an open house, the seller's agent is supposed to ask you, do you have an agent? Are you represented? That's what they're supposed to ask you. Do they always ask you? Of course not, but that's what they're supposed to ask you. And if you tell them, no, you don't, they say, fine, no problem, I can work with you. This is what they're really saying to you. And again, I covered this yesterday, but it's worth repeating. What they're saying is, you are not my client, you are my customer. And therefore, anything you tell the seller's agent is going to go straight back to the seller. The seller has a fiduciary the seller's agent, has a fiduciary responsibility to the seller. That means anything and everything they find out, they have to tell them. But they have no such responsibility to you. If you want somebody to protect your state secrets, if you want somebody to protect your interests, then you need to have a buyer's broker. You need to have your own person. You need this person over here, and you want this person here to communicate with the broker, not you. This broker cannot communicate with the seller. You are not going to be able to communicate with the seller. The way the communication flows is you tell your broker or agent what you want them to do. They tell the seller's agent what you want them to do. They then tell the seller what you want them to do. You want them to do. Say that 10 times real fast. All right. So that's how the matrix works. We do not want to go straight to seller's agents and tell them anything, because they have ways of getting stuff out of you that only works to your disadvantage. Does everybody get that? If you get that, give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up if you understand. And again, I'm repeating myself, right? I'm repeating myself, but it's important enough that we repeat it a couple more times until it kind of really sinks in. And then the last thing I want to talk about is, again, a recap. This is directly from COMAR, which is the Code of Maryland Regulation. We went over that the other day. A licensee, that means agents, or what the state calls salespersons, associate brokers, brokers. Anybody who has a license is a licensee. A licensee shall. It doesn't say may. It doesn't say when they feel like it. It says shall. Somebody want to put in the chat box what shall means? What does shall mean? What does S-H-A-L-L? That has a very specific legal definition. Must. Thank you, Carl. Absolutely. They must. It's not optional. It doesn't say could, doesn't say would. It doesn't say it's advised. It says shall. It's a command. They absolutely have to do it. And notice, item 3, shall, presenting in a timely manner all written offers or counter offers to and from the client, even if the real estate is subject to an existing contract of lease or sale. In other words, even if the property is under contract, they still have to present any new written. And notice it says written. Now, somebody want to tell me what all means? A-L-L? By the way, I put it in caps. It's not in caps in the law. Anybody want to tell me what all means? Put it in the chat box. What does all mean? What does all written offers mean? Exactly, every one. It's not, again, folks, this is not optional. Now, this is the key to unlocking the matrix. If we want to talk to the seller, we want to talk to the seller, we can't just pick up the phone and do that. We want to ask the seller, hey, how low will you go? We can't pick up the phone and do that. And neither can our agent. Our agent is protecting our interest. Their agent is protecting their interest. A buyer's broker can't just call up a seller's broker and say, hey, how low will your client go? That's a breach of fiduciary responsibility. If we want to know how low the seller will go, what must we do? Hint, hint, it's in the law. Put it in the chat box. If you know what we must do, if we want to get the seller to tell us anything. What must we do if we want the seller to tell us anything? You're close, Rachel. You're close, Malika. You're close, Carl. You're missing one word. Yeah, written offer. We have to put a written offer in front of them if we want them to tell us anything. And if you're ready to have some aha moments, that should be your first one. The first aha moment should be, hey, if I really want the seller to tell me how low they will go, I gotta put a written offer in front of them to get them to tell me anything, because all written offers must be presented. You know a property's under contract, you know there might be some issues with it, you wanna make sure that the seller knows you're interested. Can you pick up the phone and tell to your broker, hey, broker, can you call the other broker and tell them I'm interested? You can say that, but it's probably not gonna happen. If you really want the other side to know you're really, really, really interested, what must you do? Put it in the chat box. Put it in the chat box. What must you do? What must you do? Put it in the chat box, please. Are you guys stumped? Did I ask the right? Yeah, thank you. It's just delayed. Put it in writing. In other words, submit a written offer. Please put that in the chat box. Submit, S-U-B-M-I-T, submit a written offer. That is the way we get the other side to tell us anything, submitting a written offer. If they don't like what you have presented, trust me, they'll come back and say, hey, I don't like this, but can you do that? But if you don't put a written offer in front of them, they're not obligated to tell you squat. So the key to hacking the matrix, the key to unlocking the matrix, the key to making something happen is to get in the habit of putting written offers in front of sellers. And the way we do it is we write up written offers, working in partnership with our buyer's broker or agent, and having our buyer's broker or agent put that written offer in front of that seller or seller's agent. Got it? That's how the matrix works. Written offers that precede phone calls. If your agent calls up the other agent and has a conversation, it never happened. If there's no written offer that they're discussing, that conversation never happened. So get it out of your head, this notion of, well, gee, I'm just gonna have my agent call the other agent and everything's gonna be fine. No. We got to put something in writing and slide it across the desk to the other side. And then and only then will conversations happen about what's on that piece of paper. And if there's a decision made or suggestions made, or there's an interest in seeing something different than what's on the paper, then this side will communicate back with your agent, either verbally or email, which is most common, or a revision to the contract, which can happen, but least common. And then you can respond in terms of what you want to do. But just simply asking your agent to call the other agent doesn't mean diddly. The matrix works based on written offers, written contracts. And oh, by the way, is a contract a contract if both parties haven't agreed to it yet? Is a contract if both parties haven't agreed? No, it's just an offer. It doesn't actually become a contract until both sides agree to what the thing says and both sides sign off on it. That's what's known as a ratified contract. So even though the agreement or the contract may say at the top that it's a quote unquote written contract, it doesn't become a contract until both sides agree and they sign off on it. This goes right back to what we talked about 3 or 4 days ago when we talked about the 8 elements of a contract. Okay, so writing up your offer on a piece of paper that says contract is not a contract. Thank you. Dion says it's day 5. It's not a contract. Writing up an offer on a piece of paper that says contract is not a contract. It's a written offer. It doesn't become a contract until both sides say, yep, we've passed this piece of paper back 15 times. We've marked it up, scratched it up. We kind of agree what we want to do. Now let's go ahead and both sides sign it. And now it becomes a ratified contract, chicken scratch and all. Did everybody get that? If you get that, give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up, okay? So don't cower in fear of, oh my gosh, if I wind up sending out all these contracts, I'm gonna wind up buying all these properties. You're not. We're gonna write up contracts a certain way. That's what we're gonna get into today. But do not fear that you're gonna somehow buy 5 properties because you submitted 5 written offers. But Sherman, it says contract. I know it says contract, but it's not a contract until everybody agrees what it says and signs off on it. So don't fall into this trap of being fearful of, gee, because I put something in writing, the other side is just going to sign off on it, and now I got to buy something. On top of which, I'm going to give you your one and only weasel clause today. You guys know what a weasel clause is. It's a clause that allows you to weasel out of the deal. I'm going to give you your one and only weasel clause so that you're never stuck having to buy something that you don't want to buy, okay? All right. So we talked about it must be in writing. We talked about we're not going to go back to the seller's agent and fall into that foolish trap that a lot of newbie investors fall into. And we're going to talk about the fact that we are in partnership with our agent where we're taking on more responsibility than the average client because we're not here to be a part of the matrix. We're here to hack the matrix, okay? So first step in engaging an agent and having that quote unquote fiduciary responsibility is we need to sign off on the exclusive buyer tenant representation agreement. And if you want that fiduciary responsibility, in other words, if you want that person to protect your secrets, protect your interests, you have to have that agreement in place. So again, whether you choose to use Real Investors in our brokerage operation, of which I am the principal broker, which means you're using me, and I'm teaching you, telling you how we do things, and teaching you, telling you, and suggesting to you how you should do things. And therefore, I'm saying the exact same thing to our agents, although we don't call them agents at Real Investors, we call them diamond coaches because that's what they are. They are coaches. They should know way more than you know about what you're about to do. So therefore, they're coaching you through it. Okay. But if you choose not to use us and go someplace else, they're still going to require that you have this exclusive buyer representation agreement in place if you're going to have a fiduciary responsibility. In the world of real estate, I'm going to give it to you real quick. So, and you don't have to write this down. You just need to understand what I'm saying. In the world of real estate, commercial or residential, when a real estate broker takes on a client and then assigns that client to an agent, you are classified as being one of 3 things. You are either a client, meaning you have signed an exclusive representation agreement. There's a fiduciary responsibility to you to protect your interest, and therefore any and all things that happen, you are protected in terms of your information, in terms of your privacy. When I say privacy, I don't mean where you live, where you don't live. I mean, you say something to your agent and you want to make sure the seller never hears it, that's protected under the fiduciary responsibility. So the highest level of care and the highest level of relationship, fiduciary relationship, is for a client. But you can walk in the door and ask a real estate agent or real estate broker to do some things for you and refuse to sign that buyer broker agreement. And they could still decide to do some things for you, but you're not their client. You're classified as their customer. And when you're classified as a customer, the only thing they owe you is fairness. Fairness. They have to be fair. But if they have a client and you say something that could benefit their client, then they are obligated to tell their client what you told them. For example, you go to an open house. There's an agent sitting there at an open house. The agent asks you, do you have an agent representing you? You say no. Then you go on to say, but I'm interested in the house. Can you help me buy the house? The person says, sure, I can. And they say to you, okay, like, I can't represent you as a client because my client's the person who wants to sell the house. That's why I'm here doing the open house, but I can help you write it up. Anything and everything you tell them, they have to tell the seller, because the seller is the client, but you're just a customer. The seller is the client, but you're just a customer in that example. And so if you say things like, hey, you know, how much are they asking for the house? And the agent says 350, you know, 350. Oh my God, I would have paid 370 for this. I love this house. I would have thought it would be worth a whole lot more. I've looked at 3 or 4 houses this weekend, and this house is the best of the bunch. And the agent said, okay, well, do you want to make an offer for 350? You said, yeah. So they write up your offer for 350. And when they present your offer for 350, the seller, they say to them, oh, and by the way, they're willing to go up to 370. So you can either sign this, or I can just go back and tell them, hey, I presented your offer, but the seller wants more because there's other offers. So if you want it, you need to come up to like 360, 370, or 375. And then that person comes back to you and says, hey, good news. The seller's interested in doing business with you, but the 350 is not going to cut it. Can you do 375? The person says, oh, well, you know, I was willing to go 370. It's a nice house. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go 375. And they write it up 375. And then you get to the settlement table, and the seller says, I am so glad you're willing to pay 375 because I'm moving to Florida and I really want to get a boat. And with the extra $25,000 you were willing to spend on my house, I can go get that boat when I get to Florida. And you go, well, what are you talking about? So, well, you had the highest offer at 350, but then my agent told me that you're willing to go 370, and then he suggested that he says 375, and you agreed to 375. So now I got an extra $25,000 I would expect, and I'm going to buy a boat when I get to Florida. Thank you so much. And you're mad. You real mad. You like want to sue mad. Well, you got nobody to sue because the relationship between the seller and the seller's agent was fiduciary because they were a client, and the relationship they had with you was customer. And so you can sue all you want, but you're going to lose. You can take them to the real estate commission. You're going to lose. The first thing that a judge or the real estate commission is going to say is like, you know, well, did they ask you if you had an agent? Yeah, they asked me. Well, what'd you tell them? I don't need an agent. I don't want an agent. I just want to go ahead and buy the house. And they explained to you that you would be their customer, not their client. Yeah, they even gave you a piece of paper. They gave you a piece of paper that says, you know, who real estate agents represent. I got it in my file. Well, you agreed to be the customer, not the client. And therefore, because you were the customer, not the client, anything you told them, they had to tell the other side, and they were obligated to protect them, but they were never obligated to protect you. And you screwed yourself. I mean, forgive me for saying it that way, but you screwed yourself. So how do we prevent that from happening? You have your own agent. And as I said before, it's the seller who's paying the commission for your agent. So you get to have somebody represent you, and you're not even paying them. You're not paying them. The seller's paying them. On top of which, they don't get paid until you get paid. I mean, anybody having an aha moment right now, realizing that going in and talking to sellers agents is about the dumbest thing you could ever do, because you could have had somebody who had you as their client, protected your interests, fought for you, and they were paid by the other side? I mean, anybody like that idea of they're protecting you and you're not even paying for it? All right. So 3 types of relationship. Client, which is the highest level, has a fiduciary responsibility. That comes with signing that exclusive buyer broker agreement. Customer, where you say, I don't want to sign an exclusive buyer broker agreement. I just want you to write up the offer. By definition, you are now saying, I don't want to have the fiduciary relationship. I just want you to treat me like a customer. And as a customer, they're only obligated for fairness. As a client, they're obligated to protect your interest. And then the third, which you rarely see, is what they call ministerial acts. So as an example, you're driving through a neighborhood, you see some houses, you got a friend who's a real estate agent, you say, hey, is it possible for you to pull me some comps, or maybe give me what's called a broker price opinion or a CMA and tell me what the house is worth? And they're like, yeah, I do that for folks for like 150 bucks. Give me an email address, I'll send it to you in about 15 minutes. And they go into the MLS and very quickly pull up comps. By the way, if you're a real estate agent and you have full-on MLS access, you can probably pull comps in about 5 minutes. So you may wait a half an hour or so to make them think that it actually took you some time to put it together. And then you push the send button and have them go to PayPal and pay you 150 bucks. That's what's known as ministerial acts. There's no client relationship. There's no real customer relationship. You're just kind of doing something for somebody, maybe for free, or maybe you're just getting paid. But there's no, you're nobody signing any paperwork to make that happen. That's what's known as a quote unquote ministerial act. Ministerial act. I'll get it together. I need more coffee. A ministerial act. Okay. Does everybody understand those three things? If you understand those three things, please type in the chat box, I get it, or give me a thumbs up. Okay. So get it. Now, of the three, when you're going into the matrix, to hack the matrix, to go in and get what you want and get the heck back out, what kind of relationship do you think you want with your agent? Do you want to be a client? Do you want to be a customer? Or do you just want some ministerial acts? Which of the three do you want? Bingo. Client. You want to be a client. You want to have that fiduciary responsibility. You want to have that protection. You want to make sure that if you say something dumb, which, oh, by the way, when you're new to the game, you're always saying something dumb. We all do that. We all say stuff that we're not supposed to be saying that we don't want the other side to hear. If you want those protections, then you have to have that fiduciary relationship. And the only way you get the fiduciary relationship is through an exclusive buyer-broker agreement. And the reason why it says buyer-broker, buyer-tenant, is because it's the same relationship whether you are buying a property and you're the buyer, or you're looking to lease a property, residential, commercial, whatever, all right? So it's basically the same form, creates the same relationship, and it's only through the signing off on that form by both parties that the fiduciary relationship is established, okay? So if you want that, you're gonna have to sign that with somebody. And if you refuse to sign it, which I see a lot of people do, particularly newbies, you're not gonna have a fiduciary relationship. You're gonna have a customer relationship. And you don't want that. Not if you're getting into your deep, dark secrets or sharing your deep, dark, like, I ain't got any money, I've never done this before, I'm only gonna wholesale the property, I'm really nervous about what I'm, like, that's the kind of stuff you don't want the seller knowing. You may need to tell it to your coach, you need to get that off your chest and get it out there so that we can help guide you through the process. Again, nothing good happens in your comfort zone. So by definition, all this stuff is gonna happen outside your comfort zone. So you're gonna be uncomfortable, you're gonna be nervous, your knees are gonna knock, right? But you want somebody who's hearing that stuff that is not going to tell the other side. You want somebody hearing that stuff who's going to guide you through that process, okay? So whether it's at Real Investors or it's at another firm, you're going to have to sign it for them. When you are shopping for a buyer's agent or a buyer's broker, I strongly encourage you to look for somebody who's got the CP RIA designation. That's Certified Professional Real Estate Investment Advisor. That is somebody who's gone through a series of classes, earned that designation, and understands fully, top down, how to work with investors, how to work with investors on quick cash deals, how to work with investors on FSBO deals. By the way, you can in fact hire your agent if you want them to talk to and negotiate on your behalf deals that are not in the MLS. You can have a one-off relationship where the buyer's broker can go talk to a FSBO and say to the FSBO, hey, I got a client who's interested in your house. I see your house is advertised on Facebook, or your house has a for sale by owner sign in the front yard. You can engage that person to go talk on your behalf. That happens all the time, right? Now, the agent has to approach that home seller and get them to sign a piece of paper that says, A, you're willing to pay me the commission. And if you're willing to pay me a commission for bringing you a client, right, then it establishes what that commission is. But again, it's the same relationship. They work for you, but they're getting paid by the seller. Or if the homeowner says, I'm not interested in paying a commission, if you got somebody who's interested, bring them by, but I'm not going to pay, in which case they then turn to you and say, okay, I need to get compensated somehow, but this person's not going to pay me. Do you want to pay me by the hour to negotiate? Do you want to pay me a commission in the event that you actually get the deal? Do you want to partner on this? And if you get a deal, we split profit. Like there's all kinds of ways that they can, that your agent can get paid, but they need to first establish who's going to pay them. And then once they establish that, you tell them what you want them to do. And they can act as though, just like it was in the MLS deal, okay? So that can happen, right? But in addition to which, CP RIA agents also understand how to get financing, understand how to talk to hard money lenders, understand the different kind of funding. They also understand how to rehab houses top to bottom, and they understand commercial. So when you're ready to transition from single family housing to commercial, so that's why we call our agents diamond coaches, because pretty much all of our agents are CP RIA designated certified professional real estate investment advisor agents. They've had that training. And as we talked about before, the vast majority of real estate agents out there have no training whatsoever when it comes to investing. If they're outside of Maryland, they may have had an hour as a part of getting their license, but there's no requirement for an agent to have any coaching, any training whatsoever to get their license. And every 2 years when they do their CE credits, unless they go out of their way, they're not getting any training whatsoever. In fact, when you get your CE credits, only an hour and a half is what's called electives. Everything else is mandated by the state. In the state, it's 12 hours for an agent, 15 hours for an associate broker, and office manager. We talked the other day about the difference between office manager, salesperson, associate broker. I'm having trouble hearing. Sorry, my watch was interrupting. When a real estate agent, broker, associate broker, office manager goes for their every 2-year cycle of doing their CE credits, they have to take 15 hours. Salespeople or real estate agents take 12. Out of those either 12 or 15 hours, only an hour and a half is elective. Everything else is mandated by the state. The difference between the 12 and the 15, real estate brokers, associate brokers, and office managers have to take a 3-hour course on supervision. That's got nothing to do with investing. So otherwise, they're taking the same 12 hours. Or to be more specific, what's that, 10 and a half, right? 10 and a half, yeah. So the 10 and a half is like fair housing, new legislation, new laws, changes to the contract. None of that stuff in that 12 hours has anything to do with investing. So 99.9% of the real estate agents running around out there know nothing about investing. In fact, you will know more, and I've said that before, and I'll say it again, you'll know more about investing and how to be an investor by the time you finish this 21-day course in about a week than the vast majority of real estate agents know, and many of whom have had their real estate license for years. So don't expect an agent outside of Real Investors or an agent who hasn't earned that CP RIA designation to understand what it is you're attempting to do. And we've already talked about situations that I've seen firsthand where newbie investors hire an agent or take on an agent, and then later on the broker tells them that they're not allowed to work with the agent anymore. I already talked about that before, so I'm not going to rehash that. All right, so we want our own agent, buyer's agent. We need to sign an exclusive buyer-broker agreement wherever we go if we want that fiduciary responsibility on their part. And at the end of the day, that agent's being compensated by the seller. So we're not even the ones who are paying their salary, but they are beholden to us because we are the client. We aren't their client, okay? And we talked about yesterday about this checklist, and we'll talk more about this, but fundamentally, there are certain things that need to be done if we're gonna get these written offers out the door, and it's the written offers that unlock the matrix. I've given you guys a checklist. Please review it at your leisure. But before you engage a diamond member coach or you engage an agent in another firm, understand what you need to have done and have a good sense of who's going to do it, you or the agent, and be prepared to have this checklist with you and have this conversation. Now, when I say you, I don't necessarily mean you, but it may be like your list of things to do, but then you're going to turn around and hand it over to a virtual assistant. Right? Or if you've got kids working in the business or a spouse working in the business and they've agreed to take on certain tasks, right? So when I say you, I mean, you're responsible, but you may wind up delegating it to somebody else. But what you don't want to have happen is stuff falling through the cracks, because when stuff falls through the cracks, your business is not working. We need to plug the leaks. We don't need any holes in the bucket. And one of the ways you can assure yourself that you don't have any leaks or holes in the bucket or things falling through the cracks is have checklists. And you want to go through and have this checklist with this very first strategic hire to talk about who's doing what and make sure it's very, very clear who's doing what. See, in the world of residential real estate, in the world of the matrix, the MLS, typically the agent does everything. But in the world of residential real estate where the agent is doing everything, it kind of looks like this. The person comes to the agent and says, hey, I want you to help me find a house. They say, are you pre-approved? They say no. The person says, okay, go talk to a lender, talk to your credit union, talk to your bank, I'll give you 3 names and you can talk to any one of these lenders. And I want you to get a pre-approval letter. And they go talk to them. They ask about their financials. They ask about the tax returns. They pull their credit score. And then they come back and say, okay, you're pre-approved to buy a house for $385,000. And then they come back today and say, great, I got my pre-approval letter. I'm pre-approved for $385,000. Well, that agent now knows there's no reason to look in the $500,000 neighborhoods. There's no reason to look in the $100,000. I'm only going to look in those neighborhoods where houses are going for $385,000. And I'll ask them a couple of questions about, do you want a yard? You don't want a yard? You got kids, you have schools, this part of town, that part of town. But at the end of the day, they're only looking at deals in the MLS, which is nothing more than a glorified database with pictures. They're only looking for deals in that 385 up or down 10, 15% range. That's it, because that's what they're pre-approved for. And then typically they will, after surveying the client, they will pull 5 to 10 houses, send them to the client. The client goes, I don't like any of them. They'll pull another 10 houses. I don't like any of them. Pull another 10. Okay, I like these. And then the ones they like, they'll arrange to put them in the car, drive them around, go look at 10 houses, 5 or 10 houses. And then when they say, at the end of the day, they'll say, okay, which one of those did you like the best? And the person will say, I really, really, really like this one. Okay, let's go back to the office and write it up. And they will write up a contract for that one specific house. They will ask the client to provide them with an earnest money deposit that's typically 10% of the purchase. So on 385, they're looking at, excuse me, not 10%, 5% of the purchase. So on 385, they're looking for the $15,000, $15,000 to $18,000 earnest money deposit, which kind of locks in that client to go, okay, you better be serious because you're about to put 20 G's on the line. And then they submit it and they wait. And if they get the deal, then they move heaven and earth to get it closed. And that's how the matrix works. We're not going to be a part of the matrix. We're here to hack the matrix. We're here to hack the MLS. We're going to put out lots of offers. We're not going to put up 5% deposit. We're going to put up $1,000 earnest money deposit. We're going to have multiple offers in the street with one check for $1,000. Why? Because if you break down that process I just gave you, the amount of time it took to write up one offer on the part of the agent is probably a few hours, several hours actually. And the amount of time that it took on the part of the client to write up one offer to find a house to buy was probably a day or two. We ain't got time for that. We're going to write up offers a certain way. I'm about to show you how to do that because our goal, our philosophy is not to be the matrix, but to hack the matrix. And we're going to write offers a certain way so that when they're presented ultimately to the seller has to make one decision. And that one decision is what? Put it in the chat box if you know what that one decision is. Bingo, price. We're going to write offers in a certain way that we're asking the seller, hey, are you flexible on your price? And the way we do that is we write up an offer in a certain way that the only thing they can respond to is price. If they respond by saying, hey, your price is too low, can you come up higher? Then what they are also saying is, I'm willing to come down lower. But if they're not willing to budge on their price, you're probably not going to get any response whatsoever. Because they're going to look at your offer. The first thing they're going to see is the price and go, I don't like that price. What's the next thing you got? So you understand this. When your offer is presented to the seller, it's not your agent who's presenting your offer. Your offer goes to the listing agent, to the seller's agent. And that seller's agent is typically presenting offers 3, 4, 5, 6 at a time. Your offer is being presented compared to other offers. You want your offer to look really, really good on everything other than price. so that as they're comparing your offer to the 3 other offers, they're like, these 3 other offers are higher, but these 3 other offers have got a whole lot of warts and baggage on them. What do you mean you want an inspection and you want 10 days to decide? What do you mean you want to submit a financial application and you got up to a week to determine whether or not you qualify? What do you mean you want to have all these different inspections and we don't even have a deal until all these inspections are done? It's going to take you 2 weeks to do all these inspections. What does all that mean? And the seller's agent is going to say, well, this is how it works. This is how the matrix works. Nobody just comes in and offers you something on price. They're going to always have terms and conditions. And you have to wade your way through, and that's why I'm here to help you wade your way through to determine what's the best offer, because the best offer may not necessarily be the highest price, because quite frankly, the highest price may have more clauses, more conditions, and that deal may never close because of all the things they're asking for, even though truthfully, in the world of the matrix, oftentimes a buyer will put an offer out that has the highest price, but has so many different terms, conditions, clauses, etc., that they know, but that by the time you do an inspection, get the appraisal, yada, 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 they're going to be able to negotiate that price down by $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on a $350,000 or $380,000 house. We, on the other hand, are going to submit an offer that's going to be so beautiful on everything other than price that they're going to look at it and go, oh my gosh, they're not asking for this contingency. They're not asking for that contingency. They're not asking for this and that, but I hate the price. And a smart agent will go, well, let's go back to them and see if they'll raise the price. But by definition, if they're going to raise the price, you got to lower yours. And what we're doing through hacking the matrix is we're putting written offers in front of sellers so that only those sellers that are willing to negotiate on price, that 3 to 5% of the market, will come back and say, hey, can you raise the price? And the answer we're going to train our agent, the buyer's agent, to give is, we need 72 hours so that my client can go back out there with their contractor, take another look at the house and see if we can raise the price, which means you're making offers on 100 houses to go look at 3. Y'all understand that? You're making offers on 100 houses, so you only have to go look at 3. That's what it means to hack the matrix. If we were in the matrix, if we were following the matrix, if we were doing what everybody else is doing, we would look at 100 houses to determine which 3 we're going to write an offer on. How many people like the idea of submitting 100 offers to only go look at 3? And how many like the idea of going looking at 100 to decide which 3 we want to write an offer on? Was that too confusing? A, get 5 offers out the door every day that works out to be 100 in a span of a month. Wait for the 3 who are willing to negotiate on price to come back to us. B, go look at 5 houses a day for the next month to determine which 3 we want to write an offer. Do you guys understand the difference? A is hacking the matrix. B is being in the matrix. We don't want to be in the matrix. We want to hack it. We want to get in, get out, get what we need. Ideally, get in, get out, get what we need, and put it on autopilot, so that we are keeping 90% of the money and paying somebody else 10% of our profits to do the stuff that needs to be done to hack the matrix. It is the easiest part of the real estate business to fully automate. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about next week. How do we fully automate it? But before we can automate it, I got to teach it to you. So let's go ahead and talk about the contract. Now, anybody got any questions on anything I've said so far? This is all sort of foundational stuff, but today we roll up our sleeves and we actually start going through the contract. Somebody says, what happens with multiple offers and one check and more than one offer is accepted? So the way it works is we will have one check for $1,000 because the types of properties we're going after and the amount of offers we'll probably be offering. $1,000 earnest money deposit is sufficient. You can have lots and lots and lots, I mean, almost an infinite number, theoretically, of offers with that one check. But the second you actually get to a ratified contract, that check goes with that ratified contract. And you will need to put up a second check. But that should scare no one, because by the time you get to a ratified contract, you will already be using some of the tools and techniques I'm going to teach you next week on how to find a buyer and build a buyer's list. so that as soon as that contract is ratified, within 48 hours, you should have a check to replace that check, which now gives you another check to go behind any other offers. It is highly unlikely that if you have 5 offers out the door every day, that you're going to wind up having more than 1 or 2 ratified contracts on the same day. Very, very, very rare. Okay, we're playing the odds, we're playing the percentages. The percentages look like this. We're going to put out 100 offers during the span of a month, and we will get 3 to 5 highest and best. In other words, 3 to 5 opportunities to go out and see a property with our contractor. And we'll probably get 1 of those 3 to 5 deals. If we really want to ramp it up and get 2 deals a month, we need to be prepared to get 10 offers out the door every day. But 1 check can go behind all of those written offers until such time as a written offer becomes a ratified contract. And then the money has to go with the ratified contract, and we'll have to replace it with a new fresh source of money. But I'll show you how to do that with somebody else's money, OPM. Okay? Any other questions before we actually roll up our sleeves and start tackling the contract? Any other questions? All right, then let's go ahead and jump into this. So hopefully everybody has a copy of the contract printed out. Yes, give me a thumbs up if you got a copy of the contract printed up in front of you. Okay? And you should also have, in addition to the 11-page contract, you should also have the 1-page general addendum, labeled as general addendum number 1. Okay? Now, here's the deal. For today's purposes, I am teaching using the Maryland Association of Realtors contract. Your copy of the contract should say for educational purposes only. Yes? Yes? Okay, here's the deal. And I told you before, I like to use aviation analogies. Today, tomorrow, the rest of this week, we are in the flight simulator. We are not in a real plane. We are not going to leave the ground. It may feel like we're 10,000 feet in the air, but I'm not going to try and teach you how to fly a plane the first time at 10,000 feet in the air. We're going to be in the flight simulator. Your contracts say for educational purposes only. Why? 2 reasons. Number 1, unless I have that buyer-broker agreement, I am not your broker. And if I'm not your broker, I should not be giving you contracts to actually use. We need to have a conversation before you actually start using them. That's number 1. Number 2, I'm not a lawyer. I know I got an A+ in my contracts class, and I think I told you guys that once before, but that does not make me a lawyer. I've not passed the bar. So therefore, I'm not giving you legal advice. But what I am giving you is educational. Here's how you do it. Here's how it's done. But I'm giving you a form you can't actually use. When you're ready to have a form you can actually use, you need to have me as your broker, and I need to assign you a Diamond member coach. If you don't want to have me as your broker and you want to go someplace else, then whatever agent you choose to use and whatever broker you choose to use will have their form, and they will move forward. As you probably noticed, at the very bottom of the form in the little footer is my name and the name of my brokerage. Don't dare be whiting out for educational purposes only and having this form out in the street and somebody's like, Sherman, I know Sherman, let me call him. Hey, Sherman, I got this contract in. I'm like, they're not one of our clients. Yeah, it looks kind of jinky because it's like, looks like it's been whited out. Guys, we're in the flight simulator today, tomorrow, the rest of the week. When you're ready to do this for real, then we're going to go ahead and sign a buyer broker agreement. I'm going to set you up with a Diamond member coach, and you will get a batch of contracts, or at least 1 contract you can copy, or 1 contract in PDF that you can use a PDF writer to use over and over and over again. But for today, tomorrow, rest of this week, I'm training you. This is training. We're training day, okay? So yours is going to say for educational purposes only. Don't let that throw you. Otherwise, other than that little watermark, it's the real deal. It's the real contract. It's a boilerplate contract. Now, here's the deal. Every year, the Board of Realtors updates that contract. They don't update the whole thing. That would be way too disruptive. There's 40,000 real estate agents in Maryland. They don't want to retrain 40,000 agents every year on how to do the contract. So what happens is every year they typically add a paragraph. I remember a couple of years where they took a couple of paragraphs away, but the contract changes every year. Doesn't matter. This is, for what we're doing here, this is probably 99.9% of what you're going to see. And for what we're doing here, this is how I'm going to instruct you to do it, and how I've instructed our Diamond members to do it, to get you moving forward, to get these offers out the door as cleanly as possible so we can hack the matrix. And again, this contract is the key to unlocking the door. Now, here's the deal. I'm using the Maryland Association of Realtors contract. If you are doing business in Virginia, you have two choices. You can either use the state board contract or you can use the local board contract. Same is true in Maryland, same is true in all 50 states. DC, you actually have a choice in DC also. DC has the DC Association of Realtors, and DC also has something called GCAR, which is a combination of DC and Montgomery County. What I generally recommend is that you use the state Board of Realtor contract, because the state Board of Realtor contract is good in any county and city in Maryland. But if you use the Prince George's County Association of Realtors contract, which looks very, very similar to the one we're using today, a couple paragraphs here and there different, might be, I think the PG Carr contract is 14, whereas the state is 11. So a couple extra things that are specific to Prince George's. But if you use the Prince George's County Association of Realtors contract, you can only use it in Prince George's County. You can't and you shouldn't use it up in Montgomery County or Baltimore City or Baltimore County or Howard County. So if we use the state contract, it covers the whole state. When you sign up with your agent or you sign up with Real Investors and I assign you a Diamond Coach, you guys will have a conversation as to which contract is the best one to use. If you're going into DC, you can't use a Maryland Association of Realtors contract. If you're going into Virginia, you can't. But it doesn't matter. All Board of Realtor contracts tend to look the same and have the same very important clauses, and you're going to fill them out the same. So the fact that you may be outside the state of Maryland, the fact that you're going to be buying properties or making offers on properties in Virginia, in DC, or Texas, or wherever, doesn't matter. Don't get hung up on that. Just come along with me step by step, and let me explain this to you and understand that any Board of Realtor contract is going to look very, very similar to what I'm teaching you. Okay? All right. So 3 things we need to get out of the way real quick, and I hope you guys are taking notes, okay? Number 1, we are not attempting to buy on the initial offer. This confuses a lot of people. A lot of people think, well, gee, if I put 5 offers out, is it possible that I'm going to buy 5 properties? No, you're not. We're not using the contract to buy a property like traditional real estate agents do. We're using the law, right? We're using that part of the law that says presenting in a timely manner all written offers or counter offers to and from the client, even if the real estate is subject to an existing contract. We're using that law against them. We're using the matrix rules against the matrix because we're hacking the matrix. So in other words, we're going to use written offers as a tool to get the seller to tell us what they're really thinking when it comes to how flexible they are on the price of their property. So we're not attempting to buy, we're just attempting to get them to respond, which means whatever offer you put out initially, it may change 2 or 3 times before it becomes a written contract, a ratified contract. Does everybody understand that? If you're getting that, please give me a thumbs up, okay? I don't want anybody going, oh my God, if I put 5 offers out, I'm gonna buy 5 properties. No, you're not. Trust me on this. We put a written offer in front of a seller. We write it up the way I'm teaching you to write it. They're going to come back at you and say, I want you to change something. Well, guess what? When they ask us to change one thing, we have the right to change more than one thing. This is just the first volley, okay? Don't act like I got to spend 20 hours on this contract because I'm buying it. You're not buying the property. We're just putting a written offer in front of the seller to see how the seller reacts to price. And they're going to come back and say, hey, can you raise the price? Well, when they come back and ask us to raise the price, if our written offer says we're going to close in 30 days, can't we come back and say, yeah, we'll raise the price, but we want to close in 60 days or 45 days? You understand that? When they come back and ask us to change the price, we also have the right to ask them to change something else based on what we originally presented. Okay? So we are not attempting to buy. We're just simply putting something in front of them that is so attractive on every area except for price, knowing full well that they're either going to say, hey, I love what you said, except for the price, raise the price, in which case we're in a conversation, we're in a negotiation, or they're going to say, I'm not interested in anything other than my price, so they're going to throw our offer in the trash can. Do not be surprised if you put 100 offers out in the street over the span of a month and you only hear back from 3 to 5 people, okay? All right, next. We want our CP RIA, our Certified Professional Real Estate Investment Advisor, agent, or Diamond Coach to be able to do their job. we're putting offers in the street so that the agent, this first critical hire, can actually do what we need for them to do. What do we need our agent to do for us? Please put in the chat. What, like at the end of the day, what do we really need for our agent to do for us? Negotiate. Exactly. We need our agent to protect our interest and present our written offer to the other side and negotiate. Yes, talk to the seller's agent. Okay. Well, guess what? If we don't have any written offers out in the street, what do our agents have to negotiate on? If we don't have any written offers out in the street, what do we have for what opportunity have we created for our agent to talk to the sellers? None. Now here's the deal. We should not look at our agents like secretaries. We should not look at our agents like, I don't know, pick a word. I don't know what's the word. In other words, we don't need our agent to submit offers. We can do that. We don't need our agent to write up offers. After tonight, you can do that. But we do need to get those offers written in such a way and get them out the door so that when there's 3% who are willing to be flexible, they pick up the phone and their agent calls our agent and says, hey, we're ready to talk. We have to create the opportunity for our agents to be able to do their job. Thank you, administrators. Thank you, Dean. All right, does everybody understand that? As I said before the other day, I hope you wrote this down. If it's to be, it's up to me. If we try to turn our agents into administrators, administrative staff members, and say, you put the contract out, you write up the contract, like if we put all that work on them, that's not their highest calling. That's not the highest and best use of an agent. And you're gonna burn them out and they're gonna quit on you. There are certain things, even when we're totally new to the business, that we can still undertake, that we can still take on and make sure that they get done. So our agent has an opportunity to do what they're good at. We need to get good at writing up contracts. We need to get good at getting those contracts out the door. We need to understand that only 3 to 5% of what we send out is ever going to be responded to. So if we get 100 offers out the door, which basically comes down to about 5 a day, we will have 3 to 5 opportunities for our agent to negotiate on our behalf. But if we don't get those 5 offers out the day on a consistent basis, our agent won't have anything to do for us because we have not created the opportunity for them to aspire to their highest calling, which is negotiating a deal for us so the seller can pay them and we can make money wholesaling the property to somebody else, ka-ching, ka-ching. And oh, by the way, on the kind of properties we're going after and the price points we're going after, they're probably going to make $3,000 every time you make 5. They're probably going to make about they're going to probably make about 3 to 6,000, excuse me, every time you make 5. That's a pretty fair proposition. You make 5, they make 3 to 6, and they're getting paid by somebody else. But that can't happen if we're not getting those offers out the door. That's our responsibility. If you understand that, give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up, all right? And again, we're not looking to do this for the rest of our life. We're looking to learn it and then automate it, okay? And then finally, we want our offers to be friction-free. We want our offers to be friction-free. We want to find the path of least resistance to write these things up, get them out the door, and put them in the hands of the seller's agent, okay? Somebody sent me some homework, because you guys have had this contract for a couple of days now. Somebody sent me a contract, and they said, Sherman, please forgive me. The contract's handwritten because I'm on vacation and I'm in a place that I don't have access to a computer. I'm like, that's exactly where you want to be. Like, I mean, this is the reason, again, forgive me, I use aviation analogies all the time because I've been in the aviation business almost 30 years. This is why they teach pilots how to fly a plane when the engines don't work. Because you never know when the engines aren't going to work, right? And you learn how to glide a plane. Even a 757 or a 777, they still got to learn in the simulator how to glide the plane when the plane's at 50,000 feet and the engines and all 4 engines cut out on a 747 or both engines cut out on a 777, right? We need to understand how to write up offers when we don't have all that fancy computer equipment and DocuSign and all those fancy tools. So understanding how to hand write an offer up front and somehow, some way get it to the other side, even if that means driving in the car, putting it in an envelope and sticking it in the mailbox. We need to understand how to do that and do it in the way that has the least amount of friction. On top of which, we want to make sure that when we write up these offers, we're not creating inadvertently things that create more resistance. Again, the only thing we want the other side to focus on when we send these offers out the first go round is price. We don't want to get hung up on a lot of clauses. We don't want to get hung up on a lot of inspections. We don't want people thinking, God, I got to clean my house up before I can even sell it. No, we'll take whatever it is. Take the junk and all. We just want to put something in front of you that you go, okay, do you like my price or not? We don't want to be arguing over other stuff other than price. We only want to argue over price. So we want to make sure our offers are friction-free. Everybody got those three things? Got them written down? Because we're ready to move on. Okay? We're not attempting to buy on the first offer or initial offer. We want our diamond member coach or agent to do their job, and we want offers that are friction-free. Got it? Give me a thumbs up if you got it. All right. Hey, 3 more. You said, Sherman, there's only 3. Well, only 3 on that page. 3 more. All right. We want to learn what we're doing here well enough so we can teach it to somebody else. See, this is the key to automation. Learning something well enough that you can turn it over to somebody else and explain to them exactly what needs to be done. That's the key to automation. We can't skip over the step. I know you guys are going to want to. I know you guys are going to, and I appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. And I'm going to go through, once we actually get to the contract, I'm going to go through very, very quickly. So I'm recording it. I would strongly suggest go back and watch it on the Facebook page a couple times. But we need to learn this well enough to be able to teach it to somebody else. That's the only way we have a snowball's chance of automating it and getting somebody else to do it. And again, our goal, our number one goal, is to basically keep 90% of the profit and do 10% of the work. And have somebody else using the appropriate power tools do 90% of the work for only 10% of our profits. So we got to learn it well enough that when we identify who that person is or persons are or tools we want to use, that we can explain how to do it and not have to run back to Sherman to go, okay, what do I tell them again? So we have to do this, okay? There's no avoiding this. This is the key, but you need to have this master key on a necklace that you wear around your neck all the time. And then be prepared to hand that master key or duplicate that master key or create a sub key to hand over to somebody else to get it done, okay? I strongly suggest, and this is only a suggestion, you can do whatever the heck you want, but I strongly suggest that you learn how to do this by doing the first 100 offers by hand before you switch over to the different tools I'm going to share with you, like DocuSign, et cetera, that allow you to take it from a handwritten process to an online process, okay? By doing it by hand, you're really going to learn it. You probably can learn it after 25. Again, if you're doing 5 a day, that's a week's worth. But I suggest for the first month that you're doing this, do it by hand. When I was doing this, I would do it by hand. I have a black Sharpie marker. That's the best marker to use. That's the best way to fill out a contract. And I would take each and every one of the written offers that I would do and put it in a 4-inch 3-ring binder with month separators. So I would have all the offers I made in January, all the offers I made in February, all the offers I made in March, and I would just stick them in that binder. And back in those days, because I'm talking 20 years ago, right? I would write them up, put it on a fax machine, have some kind of a cover summary fax, and send those off to the seller's agent. And then I would take the summary fax and send it to my agent so they knew what I had offered on the address and the amount. Because that's really all the agent needed. That's all my buyer's agent needed. But I did all the work. And then I would take those offers and put them in a binder. Now, today, nobody's using fax machines. Today, you're probably going to wind up either scanning it or doing it online eventually, right? And pressing a button. So today, you may very well do those offers all electronically and then have some kind of a spreadsheet or something to track. Here's the deal. There will be points in time where there's lots of properties on the market. And then there'll be points in time that there's not many properties on the market. Well, if you have a month or 2 or 3 months worth of offers you've made, and let's say you're doing 100 offers a month, that means that by the time 3 months is rolled around, you have 300 offers in that book. you can sit down like every Sunday or every other Sunday or monthly, whatever's convenient for you, and just go through that book and use the MLS access I've already given you, the Real Investors Mobile MLS, and see what's still available. And if there's something you made an offer on a month ago, write it up again. Like, Sherman, I can't find anything in the MLS. It's a slow period of time. Like, we're right after the, the beginning of the year or end of a quarter, beginning of a quarter, and all these properties have like traded hands and they've blown out all the bank REO and there's nothing available. Right. Go back to your book. Go back to your previous offers. Look and see if any of them are still available. Chances are 10 to 20% might still be available. But now those 10 to 20% have been on the market for another month or 2 or 3. And that ridiculous lowball offer they didn't even bother to respond to 3 months ago, now they're begging for somebody to send them an offer. I'll tell you another little insider secret when it comes to MLS. When a property goes on the market, the highest and best offers that they're generally going to see will happen within the first week to 2 weeks. If that property's been on the market for a month, people know that that's month-old fish. And y'all know what month-old fish starts to smell like at the fish market. Okay, they just know. It's like that probably been on like days on market. There's something called DOM. You'll see that in the MLS. That means days on market. How many days has the property been on market? Days on market in this neighborhood, 10 days. This house has been on the market for 60 days. What do you think people are thinking? There's something wrong with this thing. Now that seller's starting to get a little motivated, more so than they were maybe when you made that initial offer 2 months ago. Go back and make offers on the ones you've already made offers on. Do it again. And having that archive, that repository, that catalog of stuff you've made offers on before, and having the ability to have your own direct access in the MLS to see if it's still available is powerful. Even when there's nothing new coming on the market, you still have a whole book of properties you can make offers on. But now it's second time around, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days later. Okay. All right. So I strongly suggest for the first batch, the first month's worth, because you're doing 5 a day, do them by hand. And as you're doing them by hand, actually read each one of those clauses and get to know what's in that contract. That's the best way to do it. And then finally, the key is consistency. The key is consistency. The key is consistency. You heard me say 100 offers. I don't mean 100 offers in a day. I don't mean 100 offers in a weekend. That really doesn't do you or your buyer's agent any good. But 5 a day on a consistent basis, 10 maybe max a day on a consistent basis, any given week having 25 to 50 offers in the street and then doing the same thing next month, to say that consistency is what builds a 6-figure business. Not helter-skelter, scattershot, do it once and then don't do it again for another 3 months. Inconsistency will derail your business. Consistency, consistency, consistency. Please put that in the chat box. Consistency. By the way, if you don't know how to spell it, there it is right there. Consistency. Okay? Put that in the chat box. Somebody said pew. Somebody said, so folks are having aha moments tonight. I've listened to a lot of pews and wows and oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that feedback. All right. Last. Again, worth saying again. We do not send out written offers to buy properties. That in the matrix, they write up an offer to buy a property. That's not what we're doing. We send out written offers to unlock the matrix. Because it's only through sending out written offers we can tell what the seller is thinking when it comes to price. And for us, that's the most important element. So we want to unlock the matrix by getting 5 to 10 offers out the door every day on a consistent basis. And the beauty of the matrix is the contract itself is boilerplate. The contract I'm going to show you today is 11 pages, but we're only going to write on 3 or 4. And in some cases on one page, it's like one thing, okay? So the beauty of this contract is it's boilerplate, which means we're not writing up 11 pages all the time. We're just writing on 2 to 3 pages. In fact, the one page where we have one thing, we can write that and like we don't have to do it over and over again. There's only 2 pages that change on each and every contract, which means we can not only master this and do this 100, written offer. And when I say 100 written offers, I mean filling in the blank. I don't mean writing up 100. I'm not, by the way, if you thought you heard Sherman say rewrite 11 pages by hand, that's not what I said at all. We're going to fill in the blanks on 11 pages. And it's not even 11 pages. We're filling in the blanks on like 2 pages. That's what I'm talking about, okay? So we do not send out written offers to buy properties. We send out written offers to unlock the matrix. Only by unlocking the matrix or the MLS can we guarantee a deal in as little as 21 days. Look, I know you guys are watching YouTube videos. I had a conversation with one of our Diamond members the other day. He facetiously told somebody if they wanted to go find out how to be a real estate wholesaler, they should go watch a whole bunch of YouTube videos. I'm like, really? Really? He's like, I'm just playing. I'm like, don't even play like that. You can watch YouTube videos till the cows come home. But YouTube videos never guarantee you one thing, the one thing I guaranteed you, which is how to get your first deal done in 21 days or less. You want to get that first deal done, out of the way, and money in your pocket in 21 days or less? That's the key. Unlock the matrix. Go to the part of the business that is the biggest part of the business, 80% of the market, and crack the matrix. Hack the matrix. Get in, get what you need, and get the heck back out. Do it again, automate it. So that deals are popping, boom, 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 every 21 days. Anybody here like to get 2 deals done a month that have a $10,000 profit and you're keeping 90% of that? That's $9 grand in your pocket. Every month. Every month. Every month. And then put that thing on autopilot. And then let me teach you that last little secret I'm gonna give you before we end this 21-day course, which is how to make that $100,000 a year become $200,000 a year without any extra effort whatsoever. Anybody like that idea? Funny thing, I've been in the real estate business, full-time real estate investor, 20 years. I've never heard anybody other than me guarantee to teach you a strategy that's guaranteed to help you get your first deal done in 21 days. Anybody here ever seen anybody on the internet, anybody on YouTube videos, anybody on late night TV, Facebook, etc., guaranteeing you to teach you a strategy to get your first deal done in 21 days or less? No, because they're focused on those opportunities that have huge profits. Everybody wants to talk about how to get a wholesale deal and get a $20,000 check, $100,000. I didn't promise you no $20,000 check in this strategy. I'll show you how to get the $20,000 check before we finish this class. But that's not what we're focused on. I'm not telling you how to make $100,000 as a $100,000 on one deal as a wholesaler. I've done it. I've taught other people how to do it. I'll teach you how to do it before this class is over. But that's phase 2. That's what happens when you go after FSBOs. Do you guys understand that 99.9% of all the gurus you are listening to on Facebook and other places tell you nothing about the matrix and how to get the first deal done in 21 days or less? And then put that on autopilot to do a deal approximately every 21 days. They're busy focused on the FSBO side because the checks are bigger, but the deals are longer. And as I said during the very first day of class, who cares about getting a $100,000 check? Because if you don't get past the first deal, none of that other stuff matters. Commercial, I was getting emails today about how to wholesale commercial deals. What's the one thing they didn't say in the emails? It might take you 2 to 3 years before you get your first deal. Truth, God's honest truth. Ain't nobody out there wholesaling commercial deals in 21 days or less. Most people who are teaching people how to wholesale commercial deals, if they're really telling you the truth, they look in the eye and go, okay, it may take 6 months to 2 years before you see your first check, if they're really telling the truth. I'm teaching you guys a technique to get the first deal out of the way and put that thing on autopilot so then you can go on to the other things. And in order to do that, we must hack the matrix. That's the only way you're ever going to get a first deal done in 21 days or less. Does everybody understand that? Give me a thumbs up if you understand that. All right. So only by unlocking the matrix, that's what we call it in the DC area, the greater Washington area, MLS, everywhere else, can we guarantee a deal in as little as 21 days, and most importantly, build a reliable, quick cash system that we can put on autopilot. That's what this class, this 21-day class is all about, okay? So Now, let's roll up our sleeves and let's get to work. And I'll go through this very, very, very quickly. So does everybody have a pen or something to write with? Yes? And does everybody have the contract? Yes? All right, I'm going to go through this very quickly because we're recording this. It's in the Facebook group. You can go back and watch it again. And what I really want you to do, quite frankly, is just do what Sherman says, write these things up, upload them into the Facebook group, and then let me come back behind and critique them and get into a conversation with you via Facebook on what you have written and uploaded, okay? So there'll be a place after we finish today, it says day 12 homework, upload your written contracts here. Understand this, I don't wanna see the whole contract. The whole contract is 11 pages and a 1-page addendum. I only wanna see those pages that you're actually writing something on. I don't need to see the boilerplate stuff. I don't, we got 90 some people in this class. Let's call it 100. I don't need to see 100 boilerplate pages. I only want to see the pages that you're writing something on just to make sure that you're getting it correctly, okay? All right, let's do this. Step one. Again, I strongly suggest a handwritten font or I strongly suggest handwriting the first 100 offers, okay? So first thing that we're going to come to, and we're going to use, I recommend a black Sharpie marker. I recommend black ink, black Sharpie marker. What does Sherman recommend? Type it in the chat box, please. What does Sherman recommend? Hello? Type it in the chat box. Yes, a black Sharpie marker, okay? Don't get cute, start using pink, purple, blah, blah, blah. But Sherman, pink is my company colors. Great. Use it someplace else. All right, so step one. Obviously, the date of the offer is self-explanatory. The date is the date. Now, here's key. Oh my God, who's unmuting themselves? Who wants me to kick him out? We're not doing that tonight, guys. We're not doing that, okay? No interruptions. All right, so date of the offer is self-explanatory. First thing I want to point out, that this is a quote-unquote residential contract of sale. But this only becomes a contract when what? Type it in the chat box. When does this actually become a contract? When does this actually become a contract? When signed? Anybody got a better answer? Thank you. When it's ratified. The definition of ratification or ratified is when both parties agree to everything, initial every page, initial every change, and sign it. That's when it becomes ratified. Now, at the bottom of each one of your pages is a place for you to initial it. Do not initial it on the first written offer. Do not initial it. Because if, for some strange reason, you actually write up an offer and the other side just signs it, sends it back, it's still not ratified until you initial every page. Got it? We're going to sign it, but we're not going to initial every page. We're not going to initial every clause, initial everything. Okay? We're just going to fill in the blanks I'm going to tell you to fill in for the first go round. We are not trying to buy properties on this initial offer. We're just trying to get something in front of the seller because all written offers must be what? All written offers must be what? Put in the chat box. All written offers must be presented. Yes. We just want to get what we want to say presented to the other side. We know it's not complete. We know there may be some things they have questions on, but it's complete enough that they're going to focus on one thing only, and that's price, and get back to us. Okay? So this is not a contract until it's ratified, but once it's ratified, it does become a contract. This statement right here, time is of the essence. Let me read it to you. Time is of the essence of this contract. The failure of the seller or buyer to perform any act as provided in the contract by prescribed date or within a prescribed time period shall be default. We don't want to default. We never want to default. So we have to pay attention to anything in the contract that is time sensitive. I'm going to tell you to scratch some stuff out because there's some stuff in this contract that has specific dates it needs to be performed by. I don't want you to be beholden by those dates. So if we scratch it out, it no longer applies. Okay? Prescribed time period under default on the contract. We're not going to be in default. We will never be in default. If you write it up the way I'm telling you to write it up, you will never be in default. But if you do go into default, there's a penalty. What's the penalty? what's outlined in paragraph 20. When we get to paragraph 20, I'll point this out. But the main thing that this clause is saying, and that's why it's right up front, and that's why it's boxed, is that when you enter into a residential real estate contract, or for that matter, any real estate contract, it is standard that time is of the essence. In other words, there's stuff you got to do, you got to do it in a timely manner, and you want to make sure that you are observing any particular deadlines that are placed on you. And for the most part, we want to get rid of those deadlines so we won't become victim. Now, here's the insider clue. Here's the insider key. When you scratch stuff out and it's no longer applicable, the ones I'm going to tell you to scratch out, it makes your offer more attractive. And I'll explain that when we get there. Okay. So date of the offer is obviously the date that you're submitting it, date is going out. Seller is the name of your LLC. And I mean the name of your LLC. Now, in the old version of the 21-day course, I would say name of your LLC and or a to be formed Maryland LLC. That's the way we used to write it up. And if you have an older version of the 21 Days to Real Estate Riches course, it will advise you to write it up this way. We don't do that anymore. We have found that it's better to put this language about forming a new LLC in the addendum. So after I go through the contract, I will also go through the one-page addendum. Here's the deal. When I go through the one-page addendum, I'm going to tell you what should be in that addendum, and what should be in the addendum should be typed up. Okay? What should be in the addendum should be typed up. Therefore, we're not going to be handwriting out addendums. Okay? So, I'm sorry. I mean, we're like 5 minutes into this and I'm already screwing this up. The buyer is the name of your LLC. Okay? The seller, we type in owner of record. Okay? So the seller is owner of record. The buyer is your LLC. We spent a fair amount of time going over LLC. We talked about LLCs in the water boy. We'll talk some more about the LLC when we get to the addendum. All right, so has everybody got that? My apology for screwing up the first two paragraphs. All right, so owner of record, okay, seller's owner of record. The buyer, which is you, is the name of your LLC. Any questions on that? Any questions on that? All right, the name of the property. Well, whatever the name of the property is, so that's the address of the property. Okay. And typically we have to spell out what city or county it's in. So that goes in here, and then the zip code. Okay. We don't want to leave any of these four paragraphs. Each one of these is a paragraph. So the whole contract is numbered by paragraphs, even though the paragraph's only very, very short. We don't want to leave any of these first four items blank. Have I got that? So date of offer is the date that we submit. Seller is owner of record. That's what you actually write, owner of record. Buyer is the name of your LLC. And then address is the actual address of the property. Okay? Any questions on anything that I've covered on the very first slide of the contract? All right, seeing no questions, let's keep going. Next, the property is being conveyed as either in fee simple or subject to ground rent. Okay, those are the only two choices. It's either fee simple or subject to ground rent. We're generally going to be going after properties that are fee simple. Ground rent is something that you can find in Baltimore City or Hagerstown. You almost never find it outside of Baltimore City or Hagerstown. Why Hagerstown? I don't know. Maybe the people who started to settle Hagerstown and develop Hagerstown came out of Baltimore or something like that. But if it is subject to a ground rent, and you'll know because it'll be in the MLS, it has to tell you that, then you would check this box here and you would fill out the amount of the ground rent. You'd fill it out. Let's say that the ground rent is $60 a year. So you would fill it out as 60, 60, and 00, 100, just like on a check, 60 and 00, $100, right? And then you would type in $60 right here, right? And by the way, most ground rent is like 60 or $100 or $120. It's not very expensive. It can't be, right? So you would write it out, and then you would also write out the actual dollar amount. Now, again, most of the deals we're going after will not have ground rent, and therefore it would be very rare that you see that, okay? Next, what is the purchase price? So in this example, let's say we're offering $65,000. You would write out 65 and 00100. You can put it on this line, you put it on this line, it doesn't really matter, okay? One or the other, don't worry about it if it's like one's blank, one's not blank. You know, you write it kind of like that, whatever you prefer, okay? And then you write out the dollar amount using numbers, okay? Everybody understand paragraphs 5 and 6? 5 and 6, okay, great. 7, payment terms. You're going to offer a deposit. The initial deposit can be a check, it can be a money order, okay? Or it can be cash. For the most part, you're probably gonna be doing check. So put in what it is, check, okay? And then the dollar amount. For the deals that we're going after, $1,000 deposit is sufficient. You're gonna be going after deals that are roughly between 200,000 and call it upper threes. $1,000 earnest money deposit is sufficient. On top of which, understand this, if you royally screw this up, that could become liquidated damages. Later on in the contract, I'll point out the paragraph that talks about that. There is less than a 1% chance you may lose whatever you put up as an earnest money deposit, okay? You wanna make sure that that initial deposit or earnest money deposit is as low as you can possibly go. But if you put less than 1,000, they're not gonna look at your offer very seriously. 1,000 is sufficient on a property that's 200 to 300,000 or upper 300,000. If you start getting into $500,000 properties, 600,000, 800,000, 900,000, then you're talking about, you know, $20,000 earnest money deposit. But on the properties we're going after as investors, $1,000 is sufficient. So again, write it out like you do on a check, 1,000 and 00100, and put the dollar amount. If for some reason you're doing some kind of a split deposit, and I can't think of any reason why that might happen, then you would say an initial deposit of this amount and then an additional deposit, okay? Since there is no additional deposit, feel free to put in our wonderful quote unquote NA, just so you don't have any blank spaces. In other words, NA as in not applicable, right? In that section that talks about an additional deposit. So there is no additional deposit, right? And since there is no additional deposit, then that's an A, that's an A, and that's an A. Got it? Try not to leave anything blank. It is rare that somebody tries to pull a fast one on you and fill something out. Because again, you have to initial every page of the contract when you're ready to ratify it. If you don't initial every page and somebody tries to pull a fast one on you, right? You can say, hey, I didn't sign that. I didn't put that in there, right? But the easiest way to make sure that it doesn't have is just put NA, right? Deposit. You want your deposit held by your buyer's broker. In other words, that should be the name. That should be the name of your buyer's broker. So if you're working with real investors, that would be Real Investors, Real Estate Services, LLC, the actual name of the brokerage account. You want the money, your earnest money deposit, held by your broker, always. You do not want it held by the title company, and you certainly don't want it in the hands of the seller. Once that money leaves your broker, you will never see it again. And remember, your broker has a fiduciary responsibility to not only protect your interest in terms of what you tell them, they also have a fiduciary responsibility to protect your money. So even if you screw up and you're supposed to turn the money over to the other side, a good broker will still fight for you. And there's a 50-50 chance that even if you blew it, your money is still safe hands and will be returned to you. But if you turn that money over to a title company or you turn that money over to the seller, you'll never see it again, no matter what, okay? And then your money is going to be in a non-interest bearing account. Interest bearing accounts bearing less than 1% right now, the paperwork, the administrative, it's not worth it. So it's gonna be in a non-interest bearing account. All right, any questions on this part? Paragraphs 5, 6, or 7. Anybody have any questions on that? Oh, are we good? We're good, give me a thumbs up. All right, let's keep going. Next, and again, it's being recorded. If I'm going too fast, just go back and watch the recording, okay? Next, very bottom of the page, you have all of this stuff in here about financing. Well, I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. Next, 8, settlement. We want to say 30 days after contract ratification. Very, very important. You do not put a date here. If you put a date here and the seller sits on your contract for 2 weeks, you'll only have 2 weeks to close. So we never put an actual date. We always say 30 days after ratification. I strongly recommend you say 30 days after ratification. Right now, average days to close is about 45 days. If you say 30 days after ratification and it's really taken 45 days, is your offer more attractive or less attractive? Is it, put in the chat box, if you say 30 and everybody else is saying 45, are you more attractive or less attractive? More. Now, what happens if you say 30 days and you're a little nervous about it, but back on the previous part of the contract, you said 65, knowing full well they were asking for 110, what's the likelihood that they're going to ask you to change your price? What's the likelihood they're going to ask you to change your price if your price is really, really low? High or low? What's the likelihood they're going to ask you to change the price? High. So when they ask you to change the price, guess what? Then you can also change the days to settlement. Like, hey, we like everything about your offer except the fact that, you know, it's 65. You think you can come a little higher. Your agent talks to the other end. Well, okay, well, how high do they have to go? How low will your client go? And, you know, I can't say, but we had an offer for 85 and we were close. Maybe they come a little around 85. Okay, then they call you and say, okay, 85. Okay, great. I want 45 days. When we get to that point that we're going back and forth, now that becomes 45. Now, but it's probably not 45. It's probably a date, maybe, right? But for your initial offer, 30 days. Everybody understand that? Everybody got that? And as best you can, try to stick it actually in the box. Make it so it fits in the box, if possible. If possible, all right? Next, this whole section on financing. Any one of these options you pick is a trap. It's a trap. The seller's agent knows if you pick FHA, they know how long that will take. And maybe that seller's like, well, I want to get the property sold quickly. Well, if you go with FHA financing, it could take, you know, 45 to 60 days to close because that's how long it's taking FHA to approve of these deals. If you pick VA financing, well, you know, the VA appraiser is going to come out here and VA appraisers are always 10% lower than what the market is. If you take the VA loan, they're going to knock your price down no matter what you agree to. Any one of these options is a trap, except for writing in the words cash offer. And I would do it just like I'm showing it. Big, bold, with that big old bold Sharpie, and cover up everything. Cash offer. You can put it here, you can put it here. But the bottom line is you're saying it's a cash offer. In the world of real estate, in the world of the matrix, MLS, everybody understands or should understand what a cash offer is. A cash offer is. It means you're not using any of these financing vehicles. Does it mean you're going to actually show up with cash out of your bank account? No. But it means there are no hidden traps based on all of these different financing programs. Do not select no financing contingency. You are going to have a financing contingency. I'll get to that when we get to the addendum. But don't check that box. Don't check any of these boxes. Checking any of these boxes, including other, is a trap. Just do what Sherman says, right? Cash offer, big, bold, black Sharpie, just like that. Everybody got that? Give me a thumbs up if you got it. All right, we're doing great. Keep moving. Next, financing application. You want to mark this out. You literally want to get a big, you want to cross out the whole thing. I recommend that you just do one big old, what the heck? What did I just do? One big old exit out, okay? I'm doing multiple X's, but probably better just to draw one big X. But if you can't draw one big X, you would do like, you just want to just cross the whole thing out. It doesn't apply. Why? Why is Sherman telling you just to cross it out? Because if you were to actually fill this out, notice what word we have in here. Days and date. Days and date. If you fill this out, you have to give them days and date. And guess what happens if you miss a day or a date? Time is of the essence. Remember that from the top of the first page? If you put in there that you're going to put in a financial application in 5 days, and somehow, some way, you don't do it in 5 days, you're in default. You don't want to be in default. So therefore, if you just cross it out altogether, then you don't have to worry about days or date. You're saying it's not applicable because you have already presented them with a cash offer. What does that mean? It means what you want it to mean, and I'll explain that when we get to the very end and we get to the addendum, okay? But the bottom line is you don't want to fall victim to the trap of having to agree to certain times and dates. By the way, this is about the only thing in this contract. This is about the only thing in this contract that's a buyer responsibility. Notice, buyer agrees to make a written application for the financing as here and described within during a certain number of days. This paragraph 10 is tied to paragraph 9. It's a continuation of the same thing. If you check one of these boxes, then you must fill out paragraph 10. But paragraph 10 has days and dates. And you, the buyer, are agreeing to do that. If you don't do it, you are in default and they can keep your money. Avoid that trap. Got it? If you got it, give me a thumbs up. You got it? Tell me you got it. All right. Next, alternative financing. Provide buyer timely ability to pursue the financing described in the financing paragraph. Financing application, buyer, blah, 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 may apply for alternate financing. Like, you can leave this here or you can cross it out. Bottom line is this doesn't have dates. And because it doesn't have dates, there's no way that you can like forget to do something and be in default. Cross it out, leave it in, doesn't really matter. Again, at the end of the day, your offer is a cash offer, which means you're not asking for financing per se, all right? Next, home and environmental inspection. I generally recommend decline the environmental and the home inspection. Why? Because you're going to ask them for 72 hours to take your contractor out there and look at the property. But your contractor looking at the property is not an inspection. If you go for an inspection, there's another clause in the contract that talks about the seller having to reduce the price of the purchase price if the inspector finds something. Well, you're already using the Mayo formula, which I'll go into greater detail tomorrow, but the Mayo formula takes in consideration what your offer is. So you don't need to reduce the offer more than you've already reduced it. Again, avoid that trap. Just pick decline, okay? And again, you can put your initials because it's your initials, you as a representative of the LLC, okay? Next, you have all these inclusions and exclusions. Is the alarm included? The built-in microwave included? The exhaust fan included? What I generally suggest is add these words, as is, in quotation marks, and the following sentence. Any and all contents convey at settlement. Any and all contents convey at settlement. That is you telling the seller, just leave the junk in the middle of the living room. I don't want you to clean it. I don't want you to spend a bunch of money trying to move it. Just leave it. If this house is a house that was inherited by a daughter who had a mother who was a hoarder and there's junk everywhere, the last thing in the world they want to be dealing with is, okay, how do I box up all this junk? If this house was a house that had somebody who was a tinkerer and a collector, and it's got half of a boat in the backyard, or it's got a shed full of stuff that nobody's even opened that shed in 20 years, and there's a big old hornet's nest the size of a beach ball in it, just tell them, just leave it. And what this says is you don't have to clean anything, you don't have to move anything, just leave it. It's as is. And anything that is there, whatever condition it's in, I'll take it. Now, let me tell you what else this means. Once you give me the keys and I buy the property, don't come back asking me for grandma's picture in the sterling silver frame. Once we closed, I'm gonna have my contractor go through there, and chances are my contractor is gonna be, you know what, I kind of like this lawnmower, can I have it? Mr. Sherman, can I have the lawnmower? Sure. No, by the way, contractors love it when you give them stuff. We had one person, I'm trying to remember who it was, bought a house and it had a 2-year-old riding lawnmower. That's like a, what, $7,000, $8,000 purchase? What this says is that riding lawnmower is my riding lawnmower. What this says is that 1958 Buick is my Buick. That's what it says. Now, if you want to take it with you, take it with you. But on settlement day, whatever's left is mine. This is what I mean when I say friction-free. You check any one of these boxes and like, oh my God, that refrigerator was on the fritz. Oh, am I gonna have to replace the refrigerator? No, just leave it. I'll take care of it. To some people, that's a blessing and a godsend that you're gonna take care of all that junk in the house and they don't have to move it out before settlement day. Now, everybody else who wants to buy the house, what do you think their contract says? Well, you gotta move that junk. We gotta have an inspection, make sure all that junk's out of the yard. We're not going to buy that house with all them tires there. God knows what that looks like. This is what I mean by friction-free. When you put a statement like that, it says, just leave it, give me the keys, here's your money. Let's keep on walking. Sellers love that, okay? Next, agriculturally assessed. You know, if it is agriculturally assessed, and your diamond coach will tell you that, most of the properties we're going after, particularly in Prince George's County, it doesn't even apply. But it's boilerplate, don't worry about it. Forest conservation, same thing. Unless you're buying properties in sort of that developed, what they call the rural tier, which is way to the east of Route 301, just don't worry about it. And if it is applicable for that specific property, your diamond coach will tell you, okay? Next, lead paint. Lead paint is a big deal. Any house that was built before 1978 is going to have lead paint. It's a given, unless it went through a full remediation. All this clause is saying is that you understand that if the house does have lead paint, you got to deal with it. Well, here's the good news. Lead paint is not a big deal except for houses that were built pre-1978. Well, we're not going for any houses. Well, we may be. So sorry about that. We may be going for some houses that were built pre-78, but it's not a big deal. All that clause is saying, let's see if I can find my, I'm just going to do a quick cut and paste. All that clause is saying is that if it does have a lead paint issue, you're going to read the brochure and you're going to follow what the brochure says. It's not a big deal. Just go ahead and acknowledge it, okay? So just acknowledge it. Next, if you do need to renovate a property, what this next clause says, Part B, is you're going to use a contractor who is certified in dealing with lead paint. Again, not a big deal, just initially, okay? These two you do not want to leave blank. You do want to initial them. But here's the good news. This is boilerplate. Just initial it on the, have sort of like a master contract that has all the boilerplate where you initial it and put as is, and then you don't have to do it ever again. It's just part of your contract package. Does that make sense? In other words, you don't have to fill this out every time you fill out a contract. Just fill it out once on your master contract, okay? Next, Maryland lead poisoning prevention. Again, you're just acknowledging that they're going to give you a brochure and you've read the brochure. Go ahead and initial, it's not a big deal. And then the rest of this notice of disclosure of deferred water, sewer. So here's the deal. In Maryland and in most jurisdictions, when a utility company opens up a utility on behalf of the renter or owner of the property, the owner or the renter of the property is responsible, okay? If I decide to get solar panels and I enter an agreement with Tesla or Solar City, I personally am responsible. If I decide to get power from BG&E and I give my deposit and they give me power to my house, I'm personally responsible. Water bills and sewer charges are the only thing that attaches to the house. So fundamentally what this clause says is that if after settlement, the seller, it turns out that the seller didn't pay the water or sewer charges, then the seller is liable to the buyer for any amount that was incurred prior to buying the property, okay? Question, is there a reason that you are initialing in the first spot for the buyer rather than the second spot? So in all of these places where you initial, good question, in all these places where you initial, there's a place for two signatures because typically a husband and wife or partners are buying property. And so if a husband and wife are buying and they're both on the deed, then both need to initial the contract. You, on the other hand, are buying on behalf of your LLC, so it doesn't really matter which of the two you pick because it's only going to be you. Does that make sense? Again, the matrix is designed for the traditional buyers and sellers. And the traditional buyers and sellers, 9 times out of 10, are husband and wife or couples that are partners. And when they're buying a house, they're both signing the contract and they're both initially. That's why there's two spots for the buyer, 2 spots for the seller. Okay, that's why that is. Okay, good question though. Good question. Now, again, at the bottom of our pages, this bottom of page 3, we leave this blank. If we start initialing the bottom of the page, that means we agree to everything on the page. We're going to submit this offer with the expectation that the seller is going to want to make some changes. We want the seller to make changes. At the end of the day, we want the seller to come back to us and say, hey, we love everything about the contract except for the price. And when they come back and ask us to change the price, we get a chance to change other stuff. Does that make sense to everybody? If it does, give me a thumbs up. Okay, we're hacking the matrix. Next, this statement that talks about any addendums or additional disclosures. Now, here's a little key, a little insight. Again, we are using the Maryland Association of Realtors contract. On the very first page, at the very top of the page, it says Maryland Association of Realtors. Okay, this is the state contract. The Maryland Association of Realtors has chosen to have an addendum for everything. They don't like the addendum we're going to use. They won't prohibit it, but they don't like it. I prefer to use a quote unquote general addendum because a general addendum is basically just a blank sheet of paper that both the buyer and the seller agree to when they agree to the clauses on the addendum. So therefore, we're going to use the addendum from either PG Carr, because this is Maryland, Prince George's County Association of Realtors, or Greater Baltimore Association of Realtors, or GCAR, Greater Capital Association of Realtors, or whatever local association. Since most of us are going to be making offers on properties in Prince George's County, we're going to use the Prince George's County addendum. That will be labeled as General Addendum number 1. Make sure you have number 1. Okay. Every time there's some change that the parties agree to, there will be another addendum. In addition to which, if you are buying a bank-owned property, the bank, as the seller, will have their own addendum that they're going to want you to agree to. So we will offer our contract with a general addendum. So make sure you check the box. And this is the one place where I strongly recommend that you don't handwrite. I would strongly recommend that you use a font like a Helvetica. This is Helvetica. Notice how Helvetica looks exactly like all the stuff above. You want this to come across as just standard. See, the reason why we use a handwritten font here is because we want to draw attention to all the attractive features of our contract, especially this one, cash offer. When you put that at the bottom of the page in big old black font like that, people are like, oh, goody, 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 it's cash offer, right? This stuff over here that's sort of fill in the blank, like this one, back here on, what's that, page 4, you want that to just blend in. You want it to just fade into the paint, okay? So again, all this stuff is boilerplate. All this stuff is boilerplate. We want to make sure that it just sort of comes across as boilerplate. So Malika said, is there a reason that you don't suggest using an as-is addendum? Yes, because an as-is addendum is not applicable to what we're going to do. And when I get to the addendum, you'll see why that is, okay? So we're not going to use an as-is addendum, okay? We're going to specifically use the general addendum, and it will be labeled as General Addendum number 1, Prince George's County. And I think I said before, use attached. I changed my mind. Don't even say attached, because again, the word attached starts to bring attention. You just want it to fade into the paint. Oh, look, there's a spot on the wall. Where? I don't see it. Exactly. Everybody got that? Got that? Give me a thumbs up. Okay? It's just going to blend in. Use the Helvetica font. Check the box. Just plain Jane. Do initial the 17 top of page 4. There's nothing to initial in 17. And that's page 3, not page 4. So I don't think I understand the question. So Alfonso, you were asking me about initialing 17 on top of page 4. There is no, the 17's on page 3. Is that what you're talking about? Go up. Okay, that's the top of page 4. Oh, sorry. Yes, I see what you're saying. Buyer acknowledge, buyer initials that buyer has read and understands paragraph 7. Thank you so much. Yes, because again, this liability here is for the seller if we later on find out that there's sewer and water charges. Good catch. So yes, we do want to initial that and again, either spot will work, that we acknowledge that the buyer, that says we know what paragraph 17 says. Paragraph 17 again says the seller shall be responsible, seller shall be liable to buyer for the full amount of any fee or assessment not disclosed. Okay, so again, that's to our benefit. So yes, it is to our benefit. So let's go ahead and initial it. Thank you, good catch. So yes, that gets initial. And then none of these get checked because we're not using any of these addendum, at least not on our first offer. Why are we not including a whole bunch of addendum on our first offer? Anybody want to guess why we're not checking these and adding more addendum than we need to? Anybody want to guess why we're not? Yeah, less friction. Less friction, and also less time. Every one of these addendum we got to fill out, especially if the addendum is unique to the property, that's just more time to fill out the offer. But most importantly, we're keeping it simple, we're reducing the friction, okay? If we want the addendum to fade in the background, why are we saying PG County? It doesn't say PG County, it says General Addendum number 1. I don't see the words PG County anywhere. So I don't think I understand the question, okay? Now, we are using the Prince George's County Addendum. Why? Because Maryland Association of Realtors does not have a general addendum. When I get there, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Maryland Association of Realtors does not have something called the general addendum. The whole thought process behind a general addendum is that when there's something else that needs to be conveyed between buyer and seller, because of the fact that real estate agents are not lawyers, if there's something else that needs to be covered, Prince George's County Association of Realtors says, here's a blank sheet of paper. You, Mr. Buyer, write out what you want from the seller, and I'll give it to the seller's agent. And if the seller agrees to it, you both sign a piece of paper and it becomes a part of the contract. And the whole logic behind it is having this blank sheet of paper that at the top says, what contract does this go with? And at the bottom, it says, everybody agrees to it, because the real estate agent doesn't want to get into the practice of law. And if the real estate agents start typing up addendum, then they're starting to look like lawyers, okay? So the whole idea is, oh, here's something nobody anticipated. Write out what you want by hand. I'll give it to the seller, see if the seller agrees to it, and we'll sign off on it. That's how the matrix works. We are not here to be a part of the matrix. We are here to hack the matrix. We are using the Maryland Association of Realtors agreement because it covers the whole state. And if we were in Georgia, we'd use the Georgia Association. And if we were Texas, we'd use the Texas. In Virginia, we use the Virginia, right? In Maryland, the Maryland Association of Realtors says, we don't like blank pieces of paper. So we'll create an addendum for every possible conceivable situation. And they have all of these addendum. There's literally pages and pages of addendum, right? We don't want to do that. We don't want to do it. It just creates more friction. So in order for us to add an addendum, we're going to grab the Prince George's County Association of Realtors addendum. Now, if we can use a blank piece of paper, can't we use a blank piece of paper that has PG Carr logo at the top, but it's still a part of the contract if both parties sign it? It could say Holiday Inn at the top. It doesn't matter. If both parties agree to it and agree that it attaches to the contract, it's part of the contract. Does everybody understand that? And again, I think this will become more clear when we get to that page, which we will get to at the end, okay? So this is now, but again, for this particular page, go ahead and initial it, go ahead and add this, check the box, and put general addendum number 1, okay? All right, next. Wood destroying insects, right? That's paragraph 19. Again, we will catch that and should catch that when we go through the property with our contractor. It's boilerplate, there's nothing to sign, leave it alone. Next, deposit. Now you remember how at the very top of the contract, it said time is of the essence, talked about if there was a default, talked about what would happen to the deposit in the event of a default, and it specifically references paragraph 20 of the contract. Well, here we are at paragraph 20. Okay, deposit. If the deposit is held by broker specified in paragraph 7C, and who do we say we want to have hold the deposit? Who's holding the deposit? Our broker. We never let our money go into enemy hands. Buyer hereby authorizes and directs broker to hold the deposit without negotiation until the parties have executed and accepted the contract. Upon acceptance, initial deposit, if any, shall be placed in an escrow provided in paragraph 7E. That was that non-interest bearing account. Okay. If the seller does not execute and accept the contract, the initial instrument shall be promptly returned to the buyer. Deposit shall be dispersed at settlement. In the event this contract shall be terminated or settlement does not occur, buyer and seller agree that the deposit shall be dispersed by broker only in accordance with the release of the deposit agreement, conditions of the contract. Either buyer or seller should be unable or unwilling to execute release of the deposit agreement. Buyer and seller hereby acknowledge that agree that broker may distribute the deposit in accordance with provisions of section 17505, business occupation. Let me tell you what it says. It says this: if the contract doesn't go through, no, the contract's ratified, we all agree what to buy, but it doesn't go through. If it's a default of the buyer, then the broker is supposed to turn the money over. But we're going to make sure we're not in default. And so if the buyer's not in default, then the broker has to go to the seller's broker and send the seller through the seller's broker a notice in an agreement, a mutual agreement, that the money's going to be dispersed, and that agreement says how the money's going to be dispersed. Now, if you have not defaulted, then that agreement is going to say, we've agreed not to go forward with the contract, the deposit is going to be dispersed back to the buyer. If the seller, for any reason, has a problem with that, and the buyer's not in default, the next thing that the broker has to do is send a certified letter to the seller through their agent saying, you didn't sign the agreement, I want to disperse the money in 30 days. So the worst case scenario you're looking at, if you enter into a contract and you didn't default and it falls apart, is you're going to get your money back in 30 days. But if you gave the money to the title company, the title company's not going to do that. The title company's going to say, hey, I got a problem. I got a contract that didn't go forward. I can't really tell who defaulted or who didn't. The seller won't sign up on an agreement. I'm going to take the $1,000 and give it to the court system. And when the court determines who's the rightful owner of the money, it will be dispersed. But I, the title company, are no longer involved. And if you give the money to the seller's side, the seller's agent's going to say, hey, we don't agree with you. We think you were in default and we're keeping your money. Everybody understand that? So where do you want your money stored at night? Where do you want your money sleeping at night? As the old WTTG Channel 5 commercial said, it's 10 o'clock, do you know where your children are? It's 10 o'clock, do you know where your money is, right? You want it at your broker. And because your broker has a fiduciary responsibility to protect your deposit, they're going to fight like hell. Now, how do you make sure you're not in default? Two things. Anything in this contract that talks about your obligation and has a time stamp on it, you either better cross it out and get the other side to agree that you crossed it out, in which case it's no longer applicable, or you better pay attention to what it says and not miss the deadline. I recommend you just cross it out, and then you don't have a problem. And then you have the one and only weasel clause you need in this contract, which I'm going to show you when we get to the end, and you make sure it stays inside the contract or in the addendum. Okay. So does everybody see how paragraph 20 kicks in? Okay. And again, it's tied right back to that time is of the essence clause at the beginning. All right. Page 4. Let's speed things up. 21 talks about deed and title, about how you're going to get a clean title to the property, and if there is any kind of a defect, the title company's got to clean it up, and the seller's got to clean it up. Condition of the property goes on to talk about as is, except as otherwise specified in the contract, including this paragraph, the property sold as is. So there's that as is language, which quite frankly, we no longer need an as is addendum anymore because it's actually in the body of the contract. In the old days, we needed a special addendum that said as is, but now the contract itself says that, okay? Adjustments, if there are any, settlement costs, generally split 50-50, transfer charges, blah, 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 blah. Again, you guys can read this on your own, so I'm not going to go through it. It's all boilerplate. Places for initials, that's the bottom of the page. When you initial at the bottom of the page, it means you agree to everything on the page as written. We're not going to initial the bottom of the page when we submit our first offer because we want to give the seller a chance to modify, and then we want a chance to modify, and it's not until we have a meeting of the minds that we're going to start initialing the bottom of the pages, okay? Broker's fee talks about the fact that the broker is due a fee. Again, typically the seller's paying the fee, therefore you don't have to worry about that. Seller's responsibilities, to the degree there are any. Again, it's seller responsibility, not yours. Read it. Buyer responsibility, you need to know what this says. There's no dates in here, but you still need to know what it says. Read it. Homeowners Association, if it is a part of one or if it's not a part of one. If it is a part of one, there needs to be a separate addendum. Okay, again, for this first salvo, this first go round, don't add any more addendums than you need to. If it's part of an, look, if it's part of an HOA, the seller will tell you it's part of an HOA. And they'll give you the HOA addendum. And when you get the HOA addendum, you go, oh my God, look at that. Now I need 30 more days to close. And oh, by the way, my offer just went from 65,000 to 45,000. Let them tell you there's an issue. Don't you tell them there's an issue. It says 24 says buyers are responsible for settlement costs. Settlement costs. Buyer agrees to pay all settlement costs, charges included but not limited to all lender's fees. No, there are no lender's fees because we crossed that out, including title examination, title insurance fees, loan and premiums, all documents prep, recording fees, notary survey, etc. Again, that's all related to lender's fees. That is not saying that you agree to all settlement costs. Again, please read this on your own, okay? Good question, but what you think it says is not what it says, okay? Broker's fees, buyer responsibility, home association, ground rent, if there is ground rent, okay? Talks about what that looks like. Read it. Nothing to sign, nothing to initial. Sale, settlement, lease of other real estate. Basically what it says is that you're not buying conditional upon you selling another piece of real estate, which you aren't. Leases, if there are any defaults, read it, know what it says. Mediation of disputes, read it, know what it says. Attorney's fees, read it, know what it says. Now, 37, very important. In Maryland, can't speak for every other jurisdiction, very true in Maryland. Says it right here. The buyer gets to pick the settlement company. The buyer gets to pick the title company, because in Maryland, title companies do the settlements. You get to pick. Don't let the seller tell you have to use theirs. That's not what the law says. Most bank REO deals, they try to make you use their title company. No, 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 no. In Maryland, you get to pick. One of the team members we want to have on our team is our title company, our settlement company. Somebody who understands what we are attempting to do. I've seen a lot of deals blow up over the years when wholesalers use the seller's title company, and then all of a sudden the seller's title company realizes you're wholesaling the deal. And then they run back and tell the seller, and the deal falls apart. You use your settlement company, you have your conversation with your settlement company, and if your settlement company has any issues whatsoever with you assigning your agreement by signing the LLC, pick a different settlement company. Pick the one that's going to work with you. Got it? Okay. Property owner's title insurance, authorization to provide a TILA, RESPA integrated disclosure. Again, just read it, know what it says. Okay, it's boilerplate. Limited warranty, property insurance, flood premiums, website for FEMA for flood programs. Read it, it's boilerplate. You're not going to change it. Just read it, know what it says. Okay. Flood insurance maps, guarantee fund, single family residential disclosure, Maryland non-resident seller. We talked about this. If you are not a resident of the state of Maryland, or if you're using an out-of-state LLC, even if the out-of-state LLC files as a foreign entity, this clause applies to you. So if you live in Virginia, if you have a Virginia LLC, Wisconsin LLC, Wyoming LLC, any of that stuff, they're going to withhold money because the seller is a non-resident individual state or a non-resident entity. And therefore, they're going to withhold tax from the proceeds of sale equal to, I think it's about 6%. How do you get around that? Put it in the chat box. How do you get around paragraph 45? How do you avoid having money withheld at the settlement table? Please put it in the chat box. Correct. We're going to do business by forming Maryland LLCs. We want to make sure that the buyer of the property is a Maryland LLC. That avoids it altogether. Internal Revenue Service filing, notice of buyer concerning Chesapeake coastal areas. Again, boilerplate, it is what it is. You're not going to change it. Just read it, know what it says. If you have any questions, come back to me. Consult with your Diamond member coach. If we can't answer it, we'll get an attorney on the line and explain it, okay? It's boilerplate. It is what it is. You're not going to change it. Wetland notice, forest conservation notice, notice concerning conservation easements, okay? Foreign investment, this only applies if you are coming from outside the United States. Criminal activity, sexual offenders, this basically says if you are on the registered sex offender list as the buyer, you have to register within a certain period of time of closing. And by the way, who's buying the property? Who's buying the property? Who's buying the property? Who is buying the property? Thank you, your clone, your LLC, all those answers are correct. Is your clone or your newly formed LLC on the sexual offender list? How does that even happen? You can't, right? So again, this is not like, read it, but it's really not, there's a lot of stuff in here that's just not going to be applicable, right? Military installation talks about if you are near a military installation, again, like Andrews Air Force Base and Air Force One is flying overhead. Guess what? You're going to hear the engines and there's nothing you can do about it. That's what that says. Notice the parties, no representations, brokers, agents, etc. Make any representations to water quantity, location size. In other words, what this is saying is that the broker is not making any representations, and don't come back and sue the broker because the broker told you it was a 2-acre lot and it's only a 1.9-acre lot when you did your survey. That's what it's basically saying, that kind of stuff, all right? Read it, there's nothing to sign, right? Again, these initial boxes are for the whole page, not for that paragraph. We do not initial the page of the contract until we're ready to ratify the entire contract. No advising, so the broker's not giving you advice on radon or stucco or any of this other stuff. By the way, these paragraphs talking about indemnifying the broker, who's that designed to protect? The broker, the agent. Remember, this is a board of realtor contract. Got to protect them, all right? Property tax notice, right of appeal, non-assignability. Now, here we go, 56, this is important. This contract may not be assigned without the written consent of buyer and seller. If buyer and seller agree in writing to assign the contract, the original parties of the contract remain obligated herein. What does that mean? It means you're not buying the property in your own name. Otherwise, you do have to go back and get permission. But if you are buying the property in an LLC, in a clone, and you are simply the agent, you're the managing member on behalf of that entity, you're not assigning the contract. You are selling your ownership in that LLC, and the contract is going with it. That's exactly what this says. This contract may not be assigned. You're not assigning it. If buyer and seller agree in writing to the assignment, which we're not, the original parties of the contract remain obligated. Well, the original party is obligated. Who's the original party to the contract? Please put that in your chat box. Who's the original party? Yes, your LLC, your clone. You're not assigning the contract. You are selling your ownership stake in your LLC. Does everybody understand that? If you don't, please go back and listen to the water boy one more time. You're not assigning the contract. You are creating an LLC that is entering into a contract, and then you are assigning your ownership of the LLC, and the contract goes with it. And therefore, there's never a reason to go back to the seller and ask for written permission. Put it this way. Let's say you and I form a partnership and we have an LLC that we co-own together. Anybody like that idea? Give me a thumbs up. I want to be a partner. We're going to form an LLC. I'm going to pay for the formation of the LLC, and I'm going to be your silent money partner. And you're going to run around and do all the things I'm teaching you, sharing with you, showing you. And you're going to put a property under contract in the name of the LLC we co-created, with the understanding that once we get to settlement, I have the right to buy you out at a $5,000 profit. I get to buy your interest in the LLC for $5,000. Anybody like that idea? Once we get to a deal, I get to buy you out. Now, where in any of that conversation do you have to tell the seller that I'm buying you out? Nowhere. And if you're the managing member of the LLC, you don't even have to tell the seller that I'm involved, other than the fact that I have a real estate license. And at some point you have to disclose that, hey, one of the members of the LLC has a license. That's it. But you don't have to tell my name. You don't have to show my driver's license. You don't have to tell them nothing. But on settlement day, 30 seconds after we sign off on all the paperwork and the LLC owns the property, I hand you a check for $5,000 and say, I'm buying you out. Does everybody understand that? Where in there did we have to notify the seller that you were selling your half partnership interest in the LLC? We don't. Well, that event can take place the day of settlement. That event can take place the day before settlement. That event can take place 30 seconds after we have a ratified contract. And no, you do not have to disclose to the seller that you have sold your position in the LLC. Does everybody understand that? Okay, that's what we are doing here. We're forming partnerships. Quite possibly forming partnerships with a partner we know, or quite possibly forming a partnership with somebody we don't know yet. That's known as our buyer. But fundamentally what we're doing is we're selling our interest in the partnership to somebody else and booking a profit for selling our ownership interest in the LLC. But we are not assigning board or realtor contracts. And the reason why we're not assigning them is because of this non-assignability clause. Now, can you imagine how awkward it would be if we had to go back to the seller and say to the seller, hey, I need for you to do another addendum number 2 that allows me to assign the contract to somebody else? What do you think is going to be the first question out of their mouth if we ask them permission to assign? Put it in the chat box. What's the first question I'm going to ask? Exactly. Why? At which point we can either tell them the truth and watch our deal go up in smoke, or lie to them and be very uncomfortable with the fact that we lied to get a deal done. And oh, by the way, you should never lie to get a deal done, because that's called fraud. You don't want to be fraudulent in your activity. So if we lie to the seller, so why do you want to sign it? Well, I've just got this situation here where Sherman's really my cousin, and we were doing stuff together, and it was really his money and his deal all along. And by the way, doesn't it just sound hokey and full of baloney to begin with, right? Or you can say, okay, well, the reason why is because I got this guy Sherman I'm working with, and we suddenly realized that you mispriced your property. Your agent didn't do a good job, and Sherman's going to pay me $10,000 more or $5,000 more than what you got the property listed for. Well, who wants to hear that? So how do we avoid either lying or telling the truth and getting in trouble? We avoid the conversation altogether. We make the buyer our clone. We make the buyer our LLC. And we assign our ownership in the LLC, and the contract goes with it. And therefore, we never have to disclose what we did. And by the same token, we have not violated paragraph 56, which is non-assignability, because we didn't assign. Everybody got that? Give me a thumbs up if you understand what we're talking about. Great. That's how we unlock the matrix. That's how we hack the matrix. All right. Computation of days. Bottom line is in realtor world, all contracts expire at 11:59:59. So if you say the contract expires on December 31st, it's 11:59:59 on December 31st, not 5 p.m. There's no such thing as close of business in the world of real estate, right? It's 11:59:59. 1 minute before midnight is when the contract expires. Okay, that's how you calculate dates. Entire agreement. This says that the contract, notice, the contract and any addenda. So whatever we attach and the seller agrees to, that is the contract. Okay, so the contract, any addenda, buyer and seller may conduct electronically, electronic delivery, blah, 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 then a buyer signature. Notice again, 2 lines for the buyer signature. If it's just you and your LLC, you just fill out one of them. Most standard board or realtor deals in the matrix are husband and wife, 2 couples that are partners, domestic partners, right? Or 2 unrelated people who decided they're going to buy a house together. And sellers oftentimes the same. So that's why there's 2 signatures for both. That's why there are 2 places to initial wherever there's a place to initial. But it's just you representing the LLC, so you just sign one. And then finally, on the bottom of page 10, the date and acceptance of the contract. Date and acceptance, that becomes the official date of ratification. That's what everything hinges on. And then check mark here if it's a first-time home buyer, because there's some special things that happen to your first-time home buyer, including the fact that if you are a first-time home buyer, the seller has to pay. But again, you're buying through your LLC. Your LLC is not a first-time home buyer. You will not check that box. Next, contact information for the buyer, the seller, the broker, the seller's broker, the buyer's broker, blah, 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 blah. This is just sort of a license number. This is so the title company has all this stuff on one page when they're ready to start cutting checks. Got it? That's it. That's it for the contract. Any questions on the contract? Because we still got one more thing to do, but any questions on the contract? All right, next, let's talk about the addendum. And again, we're going to use the Prince George's County Association of Realtors addendum because MAR or Maryland doesn't have an addendum. And when you actually look at the addendum, it looks like this. It's just a simple one pager with all this blank space. And again, in the world of residential real estate, when a real estate agent who's part of PG Carr uses this, they literally hand it to their client and say, write down what you want the other side to do. Sometimes it's a page, sometimes that's why it's just blank in the middle. And then they hand it in with the contract. And if the seller agrees to it, assuming the buyer wrote it up, it becomes the addendum, becomes part of the contract. Notice, it says Prince George's County Association of Realtors, general addendum. I would strongly advocate that you put in number 1. You just write that in if you want, or you can type it in. Typing it in probably makes it look a little more professional. So for typing it in, we're probably going to use Helvetica. So we're going to not highlight it. We're going to make it look like that. And we're also going to straighten that up. Straighten up. We're going to straighten that up so it doesn't bring attention to itself, right? We just want it to make just like it's just, right? It's just part of the thing. No big deal. Don't bring any attention to it, right? So we're going to need a couple things added to this contract that we need the seller to agree to. Number 1, we want to make sure we have in there the words, contract is subject to the approval of hard money lender. Contract is subject to the approval of hard money lender. Do not put a date, and do not let the seller force you to put a date. If in fact we wind up attempting to sell our interest in our LLC and we are unsuccessful in assigning this assigning the LLC and the contract that goes along with it, we want to make sure that we have right up until the day of settlement, right up until 11:59:59. You may be on the phone talking to your hard money lender at 11:59:50 and saying, hey, in the next 9 seconds, I need a rejection letter to present to the seller so I can get out of that deal. You don't want to have a time stamp on that. Does everybody understand that? Give me a thumbs up if you understand where I'm coming from. You want it open-ended, okay? So that needs to be a part of the contract. In the original 21 Days of Real Estate Riches, we would actually write that on the first page. It brought too much attention to itself. So now what we do is put it in the addendum using a general addendum. Number 2, upon ratification of the agreement between the parties, the buyer shall have the right to form a new Maryland LLC for the sole purpose of taking title to the property. That allows us to put that and or signs, and or create a new LLC and or, right? It's our ability to create a new LLC specific to this deal once we have a ratified contract. Use the exact words I gave you and nothing more. And nothing more. But Sherman, what if my agent says to put the actual name of the property, 123 Maple Street? Well, first of all, do you know if 123 Maple Street is available as an LLC? Yes. How do you know that 123 Maple Street is available as an LLC? Because I went online and checked. Did you go online and check the day the contract was ratified? Because is it possible that somebody could go ahead and do 123 Maple Street in between the time you submit the offer and the time the contract is ratified? And what happens if 123 Maple Street is taken? You now have to come up with something else. Don't box yourself in. On top of which, if you just make this statement a part of just a generic plain addendum, you don't have to look anything up. This now becomes another boilerplate page, which means it doesn't have to be specific, which is one less page you have to actually write or type anything on. And most importantly, it just looks standard. It doesn't look out of the ordinary. But we do need to have that language in there, because if we don't have that language in there, then whatever LLC you named in the very first part of the contract, back on paragraph, what was that, 8, 7 or 8? 3. If you don't put that clause in the addendum, then whatever you put as the name of your LLC in paragraph 3, that's what you have to assign. Well, what if that's your operating company? What if that's your, now all of a sudden, going back to the water boy, that's not clean water and a clean glass. So we want to make sure we have that paragraph in our general addendum that allows us to create a new LLC. And again, using the language for the sole purpose of taking title of the property. You put that in there, you have your diamond member coach and you guys agree to that language, they send it over, you may get a phone call, or your agent may get a phone call from the sellers and going, why do you want to form a new LLC? Well, it says right there in the addendum, for the sole purpose of taking title, because my client is an investor. And that's how investors take title of properties, in LLCs. Oh, okay, got it. Now, will that work 100% of the time? No. There are some specific kinds of deals, like bank REO, like properties you find on auction sites like Hubzu and auctions.com. And we'll talk about how to use those auction sites next week, because that's a great way to automate your business. They will not let you in any way, shape, or fashion create a new entity. So therefore, when you're going after those specific kind of deals, and you know you're going after those specific kind of deals, you want to have a second LLC that is your clean water, clean glass, and that's the entity that you use to submit the offer, because you won't be able to create a second one. But for 90-some% of the deals that are out there, this is sufficient. And then the third one, and it's only if it's applicable, you want to say one or more members of the buyer's LLC is a licensed real estate professional. You don't need to show names. You don't need to attach licenses. But if somebody on your team or you has a real estate license, that needs to be in there, because one of the rules under the state law is that anytime a real estate agent is entering into a contract, they must disclose that they're a licensee. That language is sufficient. Got it? So your general addendum, number 1, will have at least this and at least this. So number 1, number 2, and possibly number 3. If number 3 is not applicable, don't worry about it, okay? I would type them up in a non-bold, in other words, just normal. I would use Helvetica, because this kind of, well, this is actually Times Roman, right? But if you go back to the other parts of the MARC contract, the rest of the MARC contract, this is all Helvetica. That font is what's known as Helvetica, right? This font, because this is the PG card, that's Times Roman, right? So you could use Times Roman, but I wanted to just, again, I want it to blend in. Do not do this part handwritten. Just let it blend in. It's just part of the paint, okay? When you checked out of the dorm room and you had all them holes in the wall, you ran down to the bookstore and got yourself a tube of white toothpaste and covered up all them holes, just so it just blend away. Got it? Blend in. You got it? Give me a thumbs up. Okay? So that's it. That's the contract. That's the addendum. Put it all together, and you have the key to unlocking the matrix. Because again, we're doing this so we can get those offers out the door, friction-free, to get the seller to come back and tell us how low will they go on the price. All right? Can we get those 3 additional clauses dropped in the chat area? No, because I want to wrap this up. You already have that addendum. You have it with those clauses. In fact, I was going to tell you, you have those 3 clauses and they're bold. And when you retype them, just don't make them bold. Now, here's the deal. I want you guys to use the mobile MLS tool that we gave you and just go find a property that's available for sale and practice writing it up, and then upload onto the day 12 homework your 3 or 4 pages that you actually had to write up. So I've already given you the addendum. The addendum's already filled out. You don't have to upload that. But I want to see the first page, right? I want to see that first page that has these things in it, and I want you to write it up like it's for real. So I want you to upload that page. I want to see how you X stuff out. I want to see that page. I want to see this page with the as is, right? And I think that's it. Oh, I want to see this page where you check general addendum, right? I want to see that, right? And then I want to see, to the best of your ability, that last page of the contract, okay? Does everybody understand that? Everybody understand the homework? All right, that's your homework. We got a case study. So homework, if you're ready to go, and you know that you want to use Real Investors for your brokerage services, and you would like for me to assign you a Real Investors Diamond coach who's also CP RIA, fill it out, and you can email it to broker@realinvestors or fax it to 301-218-4337. Okay? Then I want you to pick any property. Again, this is a mock write-up. Pick any property out of the mobile MLS, doesn't matter where it is, and write it up using the MAR contract and the PG Carr addendum on your own, okay? And then, again, continue just to sort of play around with that mobile MLS device and get comfortable with it as a tool, because we're gonna start talking about pulling comps day after tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow, and then sort of wrapping up this segment so we can go on and talk about getting those offers out the door, the cover sheets for getting offers out the door, what happens when you get invited to the highest and best, meeting with the contractor, your checklist for meeting with the contractor, and then finally talking about over next week, last couple of days, how to automate that whole process to make sure that you're consistently getting 5 to 10 offers out the door. All right, any questions of me, please put it in the chat box. Item 7E, is any box checked? Let me go take a look. 7E, yes, non-interest bearing account. You're gonna check interest rates are so low for bank accounts. The amount of paperwork that you got to go through, it's just not worth it. So no broker, I don't care who it is going to give you interest on your money, okay? Can you please repeat the necessary pages? Any page that you fill out, I want to see. And any page that you didn't fill out because it's boilerplate, I don't want to see it. I don't need you to upload boilerplate stuff, okay? So as you go through it, you will very quickly realize which ones we're talking about. All right, any other questions? Any other questions? Any other questions? Thank you for the key, you're very welcome. Cool, thumbs up, why? Okay, cool. All right, so you're very welcome, thank you so much. Here's our case study for today.
Hi, I'm Barbara, I'm Real Investors, and I get real checks. I did a deal with Jesse, I partnered with him. I gave up MD, and out of that MD money, I made $5,000 profit. And to partner with Jesse, we shared in the profit. We shared in the profit. The profit was $12,000. Out of that $12,000, I made $5,000 profit out of that deal. My advice was to tell them to partner. Also, use that 21-day course, because that 21-day course works for you. And the Incubator helps you to learn the listing book, learn how to do the comps, learn how to write your offers, and Excel.
All right, guys, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being, oh my God, why did I bother? 5 being, you know what, I learned something tonight. How we do? How we do? Okay, cool. So last thing I want to share with you, thank you very much, appreciate that. If you want me to coach you and mentor you, do your homework. Those of you who are doing your homework and you're uploading your homework, you're getting comments from me, right? Are you learning anything from the comments? Are the comments helpful? If you want to be coached, you want to be mentored in this class, do your homework, upload your homework, let me see your homework, let me comment on your homework, let me help you go out there and make some money. And we are one step closer to now getting offers out the door, and that's when the magic really starts to happen. All right, so please do your homework to the best of your ability. And if in fact you're struggling, upload it anyway, I'll comment. And then 2 days from now, we will have our open office hour, and any kind of questions you have on anything we've covered for the past 2 weeks, we'll cover them. All right, thank you everybody, appreciate you. Have a great night. Talk soon, bye.